started off the new year with some sort of weird clandestine shredding operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in and Buck goes,
Don't
dude,
ask.
Rob's doing the most old man thing ever. And I was like, well, that's Rob. And I was like, what? And he goes, he's in there shredding documents. And I was like, way to start the new year off right.
Copy room shredding documents in the dark.
Well, I was shredding documents yesterday at the house.
Way to go, Roy.
And then my shredder broke because those things are pieces of crap.
Yeah.
And so I had to throw it away. And I thought, I wonder if work has one for my final bits of shredding documents, of which I cannot tell you the contents.
No.
And sure enough, we had a shredder in there. So I went, a heavy-duty one, too. So it made life a lot easier.
Yeah,
You
we
should
just
have seen
heard
the
you-
stack he brought in. It was
Yeah, it was
impressive.
big.
It was an impressive
It's
stack.
probably like that.
Yeah. We
What's
just
that,
heard
like
it in there.
8 inches, 6 inches.
That's what she said. I just burn. I used to have a paper shredder, but I'm with you. They always clog, and then
They're the
eventually
worst.
they just break. So I just do I just burn.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I don't really have anywhere to burn it.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Well, we have the outdoor fire pit and we have the fireplace. And my daughter is kind of a pyro, so anytime I have something to burn, she gets all excited. And I'm like, here you go, and let's get a little something going.
Yeah,
and,
burning's good.
Voila.
but so no evidence. It's
No,
gone.
as
You
far
guys
as-
had your chance.
As far as you know.
You could have come in there and tackled me and looked at the documents, but you didn't.
Paper trail gone.
Now, do
Gone.
we ever? Is there any
Gone.
truth to the? Like you see it in movies where someone pieces the shreddings back together. Can you do that?
Oh,
No?
I mean,
Yeah, that was
Anybody?
like a very Homeland thing, you know?
Right. There's always
Yeah.
like you always see those movies.
They get
and-
like bags and bags,
Yeah.
and there's people sitting in dark offices overnight. Yeah, I don't.
and they piece them back.
I
Is
mean,
that
I
a
guess if
thing?
you had enough time and manpower, maybe, but
Oh.
probably not.
I don't think so.
I'm not familiar with it, but because that's always there's always the late night shredding, and then someone's like, "Oh, I'll get them." I don't think anyone's going through your shreddings, but
Why not?
Rob left the puzzle pieces behind.
yeah.
You might want to try.
Codes
Well, I
out
will
there to be
say,
cracked.
and I'm being dead serious here. If I had documents that were really sensitive to the point where, like, I'm going to federal prison or God forbid, like some sort of murder conviction, like some sort of I would not shred. To me, the shredding does seem to indicate that you are leaving behind some semblance. Why not just again? I'm going with the burn because there's no you ain't coming back from that. You give an old fashioned burn in there, you're not piecing that back together with
No,
some
the ashes don't make the words.
No,
That's not going to happen.
No. So I may be completely out of out of bounds here, but I feel like I trust the burn more than I trust the shred. And then of course sometimes I do I'll just rip this in half 3 or 4 times because no one could ever piece that back together. Like you see like the credit card offers or whatever. I don't burn those or whatever. I just rip them a couple times and it's like If you want to go through the trouble of piecing that together, you got me. I'm all right.
Well, I hope everyone had a nice holiday.
Had a great holiday.
Holiday is over.
Yeah.
So get back to work.
Back to the real world.
I see we do have some people in the office. The over hit,
Yeah. The over did hit. I want to say
The over hit.
there's probably 5.
at least.
I think the over sailed. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it sailed
no.
over.
It cleared easy.
Well, this was yesterday we were saying. Does anybody, because with Christmas and the New Year on a Wednesday,
It's a strange time.
we were like, does anybody work for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It
And
was an
we
easy
thought-
mail it in slot, but they're not mailing it in today.
So we thought, what, 3.5 was the
Yeah,
over
we
under?
had 3.5.
People in the office?
Yeah.
Besides us
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And it's well over.
Yeah.
So
No,
things are
it's-
looking up for
It's,
Odyssey.
it's 5 to 6, and that's without a boss.
And we only have 5 to 6.
now the
An Odyssey
the
station.
pseudo de facto boss is not in.
Where's
which is-
he?
I don't know. I think when you're the pseudo de facto boss, you don't have to show up.
Is he waiting to be revealed on January 6th as our new fearless leader? He'll,
Aha!
he'll come in with dyed
A
beard and
Scooby Doo esque sort of thing.
new suits.
Wouldn't it be great if he came in like and it was like an all new power play? He came in a 3-piece suit, and he's got a beard. You know.
Uh-huh.
Came in like ready to go. Let's do this.
Well, it's time to party.
Is it?
Actually, it's not.
No.
We can wait till next Seggy if you want.
Well, I mean, is
I'm
anyone?
watching Georgia and Notre Dame play.
Yeah, that's not.
I like
really...
a good old-fashioned slobber knocker.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's
from
what you
time
got
to time.
here.
Yeah.
The problem
a
is
rock
that
fight.
Yeah. I like it.
no one can run the ball,
No.
and no one can throw the ball, so no one's really doing much of anything. So,
Well,
Except for that
Stockton's
kid on the
throwing it.
sideline getting run into by the ref. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was funny.
and I like
that poor kid.
Notre Dame's got a walk on. Ooh, here we go. Little Notre Dame kickoff return to the house.
I think this game's over,
This
bro.
is game right here.
Notre
How
Dame.
about that?
20 to
My
3.
fighting Irish.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was 13-3 at the half, and Notre Dame just took the kick back. And if you've seen Georgia play offense, I hate to tell you, but that may be the bulldog in the ground. And they just showed a gal in like the Legion of Doom shoulder pads. Whoops. You know, and that's the thing is like people like Stockton or not, Georgia doesn't have a good offense. They are not built to do this. And Notre Dame's defense is nasty.
Yeah, they couldn't fall behind, but the
that's a
game
killer.
was kind of playing like a Georgia football game.
Yeah.
A game that they pull out, but what has happened here, it was 6-3.
Mhm.
So that's right where Georgia wants it.
Yeah.
But they fumbled with like 30 seconds left in the first half, deep in their own territory, and
Yeah,
then
like on the
Notre Dame
13.
put that in the end zone.
Yep.
And then they just ran back the opening kick of the second half. So just like that, they're in a 17-point hole.
Well,
they should be down 3.
Yeah, should be 6-3. And now if you're Georgia, you're forced at this point to just you got to abandon the run game, which I guess wasn't working for you anyway. So I guess you got a chance to be the stuff of legend here if you're old Gunner or whatever. And is it Gunner Stockton, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I heard him say on the radio from the mountains of North Georgia.
Is it just fitting that you get some all-American quarterback named Gunner?
There are mountains in North Georgia.
I would assume so.
Was news to me as well.
Why would you assume that?
Well, Georgia's not a flat region. There's lots of lakes and topography and whatnot.
Oh, wait a minute.
Appalachia?
It's pretty flat when we were down there. We drove around. Of course, it's more southern, south of Atlanta there, but it was pretty flat.
Well, I mean, Tennessee, you got Appalachia and like the whole Smoky Mountains and all
Yeah.
that. You wouldn't think that there's mountains?
Northern Georgia has mountains, huh?
Well, I would assume that that's part of the Appalachian Trail, right? Because doesn't the Appalachian Trail
Smoky Mountains or something? No, that's in Tennessee.
That's in Tennessee, but doesn't
I think you may be right here.
And what's the Alabama song where they sing is it Blue Ridge Mountains?
Yes.
Blue Ridge Mountain. Yeah, right? Isn't that Blue Ridge Mountains?
I think
Is it-
you're
or
right.
am I getting my southern states all mixed up?
Dude, I have no idea.
Bottom line is this. Mountains in Georgia. I would assume Appalachia, that has to be
Yeah,
included.
Blue Ridge Mountains.
Hey, look at
Well, they're part of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And they are known for their scenic beauty and outdoor activities.
And now for quarterbacks who look kind of douchey named Gunner.
And the Appalachian Trail basically ends in North Georgia. So
Boom.
there you go.
Might I offer that is there any mountainous region that is not scenic? I mean, aren't they all? I mean, that's kind of what
Yeah. Yeah, mountains.
known for their scenic beauty. Well, I mean, I just feel like they
it's
all
a
are.
valid point.
Yeah, are there mountain ranges that are not known
What
for
about
their
all
scenic
those mountains
beauty?
like in Afghanistan, like where you
Just
see
like the plain rock ones, kind of?
that doesn't really seem
But isn't that prettier than the alternative?
Just
Yeah.
flat Afghanistan?
It's a valid point. You know what? Touche. That's the same thing. Couldn't you say that about any like lakes? Are there ugly lakes?
You could get a gnarly lake here and there, maybe,
Yeah.
but probably not. They're mostly scenic.
The mountains are over 1 billion years old. It says here on internet.
Yeah, good for them.
Oldest in the United States.
I like it. I like where we're
How are,
going with it.
wait. How are some mountains in the U.S. older than other mountains in the U.S.? Just like the moving of tectonic plates or
Are
something?
you not familiar with red hot magma?
It's not all God.
It's not all formed at the same time, Ryan Buckley.
Big Bang? No.
Buckley. By the way,
Did
Buckley
you
is
just
over
say
there.
the Big Bang? You think the Big Bang?
It all happened at once.
The Big Bang created mountains?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah,
What?
that's right.
I don't think that's the way that works.
I know it's not.
Ryan Buckley, how was your last 48 hours?
It was something.
God, I didn't expect to see you today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always planning on being in today. Got a couple administrative wires crossed, but here I am.
Administrative wires.
Well,
Not
I
here
thought
at
I was going to
Odyssey.
be in. Our boss did not.
An
and
Odyssey station.
Another host or producer thought they were in. So we got that all sorted out, though. Here I am.
So you went to you got on a plane yesterday morning.
I did.
Got to the Rose Bowl on time.
Not without mishap, though.
What happened?
Maybe the dumbest thing I've ever done traveling. So bad I almost thought about withholding this today, but the show needs the fodder.
Yeah,
so
share.
What'd you do?
I show up at the airport. It's about 6:30. My flight is boarding at 6:50.
Oh dear.
And no, I mean
Already
I'm
problem.
through security at this point, and it says I'm at gate C11. So I wander on over there, and it says it's going to Seattle, and I'm like, well, that's not right. So then I go to the board to find out, well, which they must have changed my gate. Which one's going to Burbank? And I look, and there's 2 flights to Burbank, and neither is the time on my boarding pass. And I was like, well, this seems like a problem. And I went over to a gate agent, and she goes, oh, well, that's because your flight doesn't leave till 7:30 p.m.
Oh,
And I went,
Oh my
what?
God.
boy.
Booked it a couple weeks ago. Never once registered that it was. I had it off by 12 hours.
Oh my god.
Oh my
And I'm like, I'm not going to go to the Rose Bowl today.
No.
Well, then what? Do you go to? You don't go down there. You just cancel it.
No, so I was
You
like,
eat it.
I'm wearing a Ducks t-shirt and like my face at the gate just like dropped and she goes, don't go anywhere. We need to get you to this game. And so she starts clicking away at her keyboard.
Oh wow.
And Shondell, I think is her name, fantastic gate agent for Alaska.
Alaska. Okay.
Yeah, and she basically found me a flight that got into Ontario the exact same time that I thought I would be landing at Burbank.
Wow. How did she do that?
I have no idea. She
So-
asked me what airports and times would work for me, and I said anything in the
Anything?
LA area by kickoff. She had an option to LAX, and she had an option to Ontario. I happened to have friends flying into Ontario. I landed at the same time as them,
Oh,
hopped in
come
an Uber, and went right over to Pasadena.
Once again, Buckley's white
Dude,
privilege
that is
just
great.
overfloweth. He's just booking AM, PM, and he doesn't care.
Yep.
Someone will take care of him.
My wife is surprised I made it home today.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
I
Things,
haven't either.
Things just worked out for you.
Yeah.
They sure did.
That's good. That's the
Well,
power of positive thinking.
Until the game, that is. Then
Or-
things didn't
It
work
didn't.
out as well.
Yeah, that didn't work.
It
out
could
at
also
all.
be the Lord, looking out for you.
That's right.
Yeah, is that one of those? The Lord made you.
I
the
actually
Lord
mentioned that
made
to my
you book
wife.
the wrong flight, so then He could save you with the appropriate flight.
I said, someone's looking out for me, but I don't know if God cares how much I see the Rose Bowl. But nice if he does.
No, He cares.
But you made it, and
did.
then I assume you got raging drunk because there was nothing good for you as a Duck fan in that game.
As I told Danny on his way out, the weather was great.
Yeah.
The stealth bomber was really cool.
Yeah.
And
And
those
that's
are about the
about
highlights.
it.
Yeah.
That was about it. There was a brief moment in the second half where you kind of were like,
Signs of life.
and then
Not
no.
really.
Then they
No.
took you out back and shot you. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it
For a
was
brief-
rough.
For a brief moment, I was sitting on the couch being like, maybe no.
Well, this is one of those that if Buck spent a bunch of money on this, which he didn't, but if he did, this would be one of those. It's like, well, was that worth it? This is what we were talking about yesterday or Tuesday.
Yeah, the financial gut punch along with the
Yeah,
emotional gut
you
punch.
spend all this money to go watch your team get absolutely mauled,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, was that worth it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the loss, you can handle the loss because you knew that game was going to be two of the best, if not the two best teams in the country. And you picked Ohio State in it. You liked them. I thought Gabriel would be the difference. I thought it'd be a nail biter. I don't think it's necessarily the loss. I just think it's the mauling. It's one thing to lose. Like Georgia right now, this could go sideways. It's 20-3. And at least Georgia has the whole backup quarterback thing. Maybe they can lean on that. But I do think there's a difference between the way like Arizona State feels today, maybe Boise feels today, and the way Oregon feels.
Well,
And,
yeah,
there's
changes everything.
It does change everything.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think we should probably talk about it.
I wish we had a show
I think we do.
to dedicate to it.
Yeah, we
Oh,
probably do.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there.
Yeah, RJ says he's in for some therapy.
Yeah, he's a big Duck guy.
He's a big Duck guy.
They went to the Michigan game this year. He and his buds
Yeah.
out there.
It's a little it's rough.
Duck fans canceling their trips to Atlanta right and left.
Well, hopefully you got refundable tickets on that one.
Well, you have to. Don't
Pretty
you?
ballsy if you're buying that thing and are like, nope, not buying the protection plan.
Not only am I getting a guaranteed trip to Atlanta, I'm getting a tattoo before the tournament even starts.
Yeah. It didn't
Well,
work out well.
that is the subject of today's poll question. So
Yeah.
let's start there next on The Fan.
It's the
Well, I have some positive, uplifting sports news for all of you right now.
You need something.
Here on the Fan.
If you're a Duck fan, at least.
And that is that while I'm teetering on turning off Notre Dame, Georgia. It's 20-3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm teetering. I haven't
and
quite
Georgia
turned it
has
off
done
yet.
nothing offensively.
I haven't turned it off yet, but I'm teetering. If I were to turn it off, do you know what the best news in the whole world is?
I do not.
That I'm going to tell you. Sports news.
What do you got?
The golf season has begun.
The century, baby.
The century is on. The PGA Tour is back. Round 1 is underway.
Where's
and they're
it, Hawaii?
They're in Hawaii.
Yeah,
They're
I
at
know.
Plantation. So I think it's only just now starting on TV.
Is there like women's lacrosse on that I can watch instead?
Oh, get out of here with that.
What can I tune in?
Tom Hoagie with the early lead, guys.
9 under.
Hot Tom Hoagie talk.
Tom Hoagie.
Let's go. Let's get into it. Let's get into the deets.
Hey, I got some bets out.
So did I.
All right.
Well, that was refreshing.
Well,
That
we
game-
needed that because we have to get into the Ducks game.
Yeah,
now.
it's bad.
All right, here's our poll question. It's on X at 1080 The Fan, and today we were asking you what most contributed to Oregon's Rose Bowl loss. Is it the layoff?
Yeah. That's the big convenient one now, especially if Georgia loses here.
Well, they're losing.
Yeah, I'm saying if they lose
All
the
of the
game,
bye teams.
Yeah, we'll now start the no one wants a bye. Buys are the worst thing ever. Layoff. And,
Well, I would say all of the bye team, like Arizona State fell down double digits, Oregon fell down double digits, Boise State fell down double digits, and now Georgia fell down double digits. I mean, there might be something to 24 days off.
Is it possible too that Arizona State and Boise State, by the way, are nowhere near as good, even though they put up great performances in
Well,
that game?
all things can be true.
Ohio State arguably is the best team in the country, and some people thought that going in.
good grief.
And Georgia's offense just isn't very good, and they're playing with a backup quarterback. So cause and relation are this is what we do in
Oh,
college
look at you
football.
with cause and relation.
Well, we
Look,
just-
come on. The layoff, certainly, I think it matters.
Well, these dumbasses that are out there now saying that they would rather play an extra game than get. I mean, it's just it's absurd. The level of. So right now, so basically what you're saying is if you're the Kansas City Chiefs or the Lions and Vikings, right?
Shouldn't want the 1 seed.
They shouldn't want the 1 seed because you're going to have to get a left. Get
Well,
out.
the
But 1
difference-
week off is different than 3 weeks off.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, 24 days is a long time. And the difference in the NFL and college is that in college, the Ducks got the 1 seed and were handed the best team in the whole tournament.
Well, and again,
You don't get that in the NFL.
Actually, you do because quite frankly, there will be a 13 or a 14 win team in Minnesota or Detroit that's going to go on the road and play a 9 or a 10 win Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So can we just, for once, can we grow up and not make excuses? If you're going to win a Super Bowl, if you're going to win a national championship, you're going to have to go through somebody.
Yeah,
And-
I think you're taking it a little too far. That was only the first answer on the poll question. I don't know that anybody's making excuses, but I think when you look at the 4 teams that got buys, I mean, you got to have a conversation about the layoff being a factor. No one's making excuses that that's why they lost.
Actually, they all.
Well, maybe, but that's dumb. It's just that it is a thing.
Yeah.
So what most contributed to Oregon's Rose Bowl loss? The layoff, defense, offensive line, or just a bad draw?
Yeah.
Vote and vote hard. Right now, defense leading the way
Yeah. And we
at
knew
48%. The layoff, 30%. Just a bad draw, 14%. And the offensive line, which gave up 8 sacks.
Yeah.
That's where I would go.
8%.
Is the offensive line.
Well, I'd go defense, but
It was defense.
offensive line, 8%.
If the offense could have sustained anything, your defense could maybe turn in a 31-point performance instead of a 41-point performance, and then you have a closer game like you
Well,
did
and
in,
Ohio
in
State
October.
took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, I know.
Look, the thing was, you're not coming back from 34-0. You're just
no,
not.
and that's why I said, like, it was over.
It was over. I mean, I guess you could, if you want to point out something, they didn't quit, showed some good heart, and they got some stuff going once the game was over. So, I mean, give them credit for that. But, you know, at the end of the day, we talked about this. We had, 2 weeks we were talking about this game, actually much more, but when we were together. And the one thing that you said about Oregon that scared you, if you were going to nitpick the number one, Georgia's making it a game, by the way. Touchdown Georgia, 2010. If you're going to point out one thing about Oregon that kind of worried you, it's the fact that you had played 3 teams that were good offensively, 3 playoff teams, right? You played Boise, you played Penn State, and you played Ohio State, and they all scored 30-plus points against you and actually made it look pretty easy. And so that was the fear going in, is your defense really wasn't as good as advertised. It's a good defense. It's not a great defense. And
well, yeah. They gave up 41.
And you gave up 41. And you finally saw, and this is what, I think I tweeted this out towards the end of the second half, we've been told all year that when they get it together, this Ohio State team has a chance to be one of the best Ohio State teams of all time. And like, you could see glimpses of it, but it never really came to fruition. You know, it was always just kind of, it was a work in progress, and you didn't really buy Will Howard all the time. And the offensive line had been hurt and kind of banged around a little bit. And at times the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, didn't have faith in their quarterback, and just never really got there. And then you saw the Tennessee game and you were like, interesting. Tennessee's really good defensively. Is this the version of it that everyone's been talking about? And we know they made a bunch of defensive adjustments over the last 7 weeks since they played Oregon, and they kept saying, hey, I'm telling you, I think we're getting it together at the right time. And you saw the fully operational Death Star. You saw the team that everyone talked about, including Urban Meyer at the beginning, that said, hey, no dog in this fight. This has a chance to be one of the best Ohio State teams over the last 30 years. And you saw it come to full capabilities. And when that happened, and you didn't play very good, and you had some guys chipped up, and if you want to throw the layoff in there or whatever, if you want to throw that out there, and the way it just snowballed on you, that just wasn't your day.
Well, it was just the way that whole thing shaped up was bad.
Yeah.
The whole thing. And it was bad for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
To me, I would probably just vote that it was a bad draw.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the title game right there.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I know that some people may scoff at that because of how badly Oregon got beat. But, dude, Dan Lanning usually is like, well, we got to work on this. We got so much to work on. We got to get better. We got to get better. He didn't say any of that.
No, he's like,
he said, dude, that team is legit. They're playing with their hair on fire. They're playing their best at the right time. Tip of the cap. I thought he was really classy.
Ran into a buzzsaw.
You did. And I think that, and it sucks that you had to get them in the first round. That makes it look worse than it is. But I honestly think, I really believe, even though the defense isn't quite as good as we thought it was at Oregon, that's pretty clear at this point, I still believe they could have made the finals of that tournament.
Agreed.
But I do not believe they were ever going to beat Ohio State again. I think the thing about Ohio State that gave us all pause was that it looked like there was trouble in paradise.
Yeah.
When we knew they were the most talented team.
Yeah.
It's just that, they kind of, did they lose? Who else did they lose to before?
Michigan.
Yeah. So they lost to Oregon, and then, so they didn't have another loss. That's right. I was thinking they had another loss.
They did. They lost to Oregon and then
And
later
Michigan.
I know. I'm saying,
you thought they had a third.
I'm saying other than Oregon, I thought they had another loss. They didn't. They lost that game to Michigan, and that's when we all looked at this. And especially, sort of how Ryan Day reacted to the flag planting thing.
Yep.
It looked weird. And then all of a sudden there was some scuddy that he might get fired. And how does that even happen? And it looked like trouble in paradise to the point where you really didn't have to worry about them. They were self-destructing.
Yeah.
Well, once you saw the Tennessee game, you went, okay, that's not happening.
No.
So then, not only did they have the revenge factor, like they were licking their chops to play this team again, but 2, they now have momentum. And 3, I do think it matters that you had 24 days without lacing them up. Yeah. And I just think the confluence of all of those things, plus that's probably the best. No, it's not probably. It is the best team in the tournament.
Yep.
All of those things came together and made this just look like just a bad set of circumstances.
Yep.
And it played out that way.
Yep.
So we'll talk a lot about it today, and you're going to hear all kinds of things. I've already been reading the text line about Tosh Lapoy and different things. I just don't think anything should change. Look, you were damn good. You were undefeated. You weren't quite good enough. I think the solace may be that the way they beat your ass, you probably weren't winning that tournament, right? Don't you think?
I think...
I would agree.
I don't think
you're
they're
not
winning that
beating it
tournament
unless someone clipped Ohio State or something happened to Ohio State.
Right.
If, like I said, if that's the version of Ohio State that everyone had been hinting at, if that really is what this has become,
why would it not be? They've done it 2 weeks in a row.
Exactly. No one is. If they play like that, no one is beating them. I think but I will go to my grave saying that if you gave me Oregon versus everything else I've seen in this tournament, and I really like Notre Dame. Right, Notre Dame was my sleeper coming out of that side, and they may end up doing this. I think Oregon could beat any other team in this tournament including Texas, including Georgia, including Notre Dame. I thought they could beat Ohio State. Turns out, no, you can't.
Here's the hard part.
And it's going to look bad because you got bounced in the first round, and I don't think that's indicative of where you land in the hierarchy of this season.
I agree with that, but at the same time, you've given up almost 150 points to the 4 good offenses that you've played.
Yes. Well,
all
same
4
offense twice. But.
Right, but they're all in the tournament, right? 2 Ohio State, 1 Boise State, and 1 Penn State.
You've been cooked
you
4
gave
times.
up 150 points.
Yeah.
Your defense was not good enough.
No.
The comparisons to the Lions, it's a great comparison because I don't think anybody thinks the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl with all the injuries that they have.
Yes.
And their offense is amazing, but they just, and now the Lions, it's more injury. The Ducks, it's not injury. But it just, I think the biggest thing about this, the single biggest thing is you knew you would get Ohio State's best shot.
Yep.
It's just that when you think you are one of, if not the best teams in the country, you thought you could handle a little better than that. And the fact that they didn't is alarming.
Yeah. And if you want me to put a rosy spin on that, and there really isn't, but if I'm trying to go from a glass half empty perspective, I went back and watched that, as I always try to do, right? I'll go back and I'll try to watch a game, and the 50-50 balls that happened while that game in the first half, because anything that happened in the second half, I don't care about.
Matter.
The game was over, right? 34-0. I don't give a rip about, if you know.
Ducks won the second half, 21-7.
When it was 34-0, there were a handful of plays that if Oregon makes them and Ohio State doesn't, or Ohio State just doesn't make the play, then maybe that game can unfold a little bit differently. I don't think you were going to beat them either way, right? Ohio State was fully capable, and they kicked your ass, and they kicked your ass up front. I thought they did a great job of mixing up coverages. I thought the defense looked completely different. Their defensive line didn't have to blitz to overwhelm you, which was something that didn't happen in the first game. I thought the Oregon O-line played their worst game of the year since the Idaho-Boise State games. I thought Cornelius on the outside with Sawyer. I didn't expect that to be a big matchup, but he abused him a lot of that game. But going back, remember the Tez Johnson play where it hits the Ohio State guy in the head. If that ball's just thrown a little bit better, that's a walk-in 6. Ohio State had 2 plays where the DB reaches out on a 3rd down in a big play, and he catches it by his fingertips where he knocks it down. Was it Smith that had the one-handed grab that he pulled in? There was all these little kind of tiny plays that when you looked at it on 3rd down, Ohio State was getting off the field and Oregon couldn't make a play defensively, where they just couldn't wrap a guy up. There was so when I went back and watched it, yes, it was an absolute ass kicking. There were marginal plays, those 50-50 plays, and not one of them went Oregon's way. And I think on a different day, it's usually not so one-sided on those 50-50 balls. And if that's different, then maybe that's a 24-10, 24-16 sort of half, and then maybe you settle down and maybe you've got something going, but it didn't. It just avalanched against you, and everything went away.
Yeah, I feel like those balls, I mean, that's every game.
It's every game.
But they were so dominated up front on both sides that I don't think it would have changed the damn thing.
And that surprised me a little bit because the Oregon O-line had been rock solid, and Ohio State's front is good. And I know with Tumalau and Sawyer, those guys are viewed as NFL guys, but they're not that's not Bosa, right? That's not the Bosa brothers. That's not anyone that just all year has just been terrorizing people.
That's where I think the layoff comes in.
Yeah, maybe.
I really do. I mean, I think that
they whooped them up front.
You're just slower. Oh, they whooped them the whole game, but I think they got better as the game went on, but it took them a while.
Yeah.
And it's just once they start eating and going downhill, like Sawyer and those guys, they were in the backfield the whole game.
And the other one too is once you fall behind and James goes out, the Oregon run game, which was non-existent, you had to abandon it. You couldn't do it. And so when you take away the run game and you take away any play action and you can pin your ears back and come, that's just that's a death sentence for an O-line. And then I thought Ohio State did and Galloway talked about it. Ohio State did a great job of mixing up their coverage looks, and Dylan Gabriel was really confused. He did not know where to go with the football. And for a guy that has played that much ball, I was surprised by how well Ohio State gave him one look, morphed into something else, and still didn't have a lot to bring a lot of pressure, was able to play coverage. And because of the score, remember we talked about it, the best way to get a team out of a 2-eye safety look is you run them out of it. And when you can't run the ball and you can play coverage and still mix up your looks in the front seven, Oregon was befuddled all first half and had no answer for it. None.
All right, we will talk more about this game. Texas gonna Texas. That was the game.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that coming up as well.
And by the way, for anyone that's talking about the layoff, Arizona State, Boise State, they had that layoff and still managed to get their footing underneath them.
Yeah, they
and
rallied.
Play a good game.
Well,
and
Georgia's rallying a little bit.
Exactly. And Oregon did not. So
well, that's because Oregon just got that game again. This is why I think they just got a bad draw. That game, I think the layoff does matter. It is a thing, but it wouldn't change a thing because of how Ohio State dominated Oregon up front on both sides of the ball. Like the score might have been different, but Ohio State was winning that game the way they dominated you on the lines, period. Yeah. Layoff or no layoff. But the layoff, I mean, every single one of these teams has fallen behind by double digits. Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting factor here. All right, so we'll get more into Oregon losing. What is next? And in the pantheon of stinging losses, where might this rank? We'll ask our duck homer over there, Buckley, who was out there.
It's pretty bad. Although, maybe not the worst loss I've seen the Ducks take at the Rose Bowl.
Okay. All coming up. But first, here's Buckle Sports Center.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Ryan Buckley with the Sports Center update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on the Fan. On the college gridiron today, the Sugar Bowl being played after a 21-hour postponement. Notre Dame and Georgia battling for the final spot in the college football playoff semifinals, with the winner playing Penn State in the Orange Bowl next round. Notre Dame up 20-10 in this one. They returned a kick to open up the second half, make it 20-3, but Georgia has responded with a touchdown of their own. Coming up at 5 o'clock, it's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl between Ole Miss and Duke. That one over on ESPN. Lane Kiffin's Rebels favored by 17. Pro Bowl rosters announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off the AFC roster for the first time since becoming the starter in KC. Seattle cornerback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative, on the NFC roster. On the hardwood, the Blazers are back in action tonight visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Jeremy Grant and Matisse Thybulle are both out for Portland. Delano Banton is questionable. Tip-offs at 7:30. The Lakers are favored by 7.5. And in the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight as number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tips right here on the Fan at 7 o'clock with pregame coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it over on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks are favored by 4.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley from 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-507-9701. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-507-9701. That's 800-507-9701. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Isaac and Suk here with Ken and Donnie, the advocates.
But I'm guessing more often than not, when an insurance company makes you an offer, that offer is not in your best interest.
It is not in your best interest to say yes.
So after the first offer comes the first call to Donikin, to the advocates.
Hopefully before that first offer. I mean, don't let them just call it, because these guys are so nice. They're trained to be that way, and they sound like they're on your side. I promise they're not.
You need more than a lawyer. You deserve an advocate. Advocateslaw.com.
Hi, I'm the daughter of Henderson and Daughter. Nearly 40 years ago, my folks and I were talking about starting a new window business. Pop endearingly stated, we're going to be go-givers instead of go-getters. Go-givers realize that no project is too small. At Henderson and Daughter, we take the time to listen. We design and install beautiful windows manufactured by Milgard. Let us show you all of the affordable possibilities new Milgard windows can do to transform your home. Visit hendersonanddaughter.com and call us to set up a
Fan.
All right. Well, Dusty's coming home, and no one's going to Atlanta. Or Dallas, for that matter.
No one from up here, I'm guessing. Unless you're like a Notre Dame or a Ohio State fan.
That's the crappy part of it is, Texas now gets to go play in Dallas.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
The hell?
Yep. It's
weak.
That stuff, it drives me a little bananas when you get to the end of the season like this and people start pointing to whether it's layoffs or draw or whatever. And that's one of my favorite parts about Lanny. He didn't use it before the tournament. He's not using it after.
And you won't ever hear him use it.
You won't ever hear him. It just drives me crazy especially when you get your ass thoroughly kicked. It makes you, quite frankly, it's the Shane Gillis thing. It makes you look like a little bit of a bitch is what it does. No one respects it. It makes you feel better. It's like talking crap about your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. Like, it doesn't do anyone good other than it makes you feel a little better, but everyone else looks at you and makes fun of you. Like, this is the sort of stuff that the SEC does. This is the sort of the Alabama, Georgia excuses. Like, and that we all look at and we all point at, and yet you're doing them. Don't fall into that trap. Take your L. Take your ass kicking, take your talking to, and go sit down with everyone else. Because at the end of the day, this was arguably the second best season in Oregon history. And yet I hear people up here talking about what a disappointment and, the season's a failure. My God, it's the third year of Dan Lanning's run. Go find me a coach outside of Bob Stoops or Nick Saban that won a national championship in their first 3 years.
People have been pointing out online the shortest amount of time any head coach has taken to win a national championship is 6 years.
Thank you.
Dan Lanning's halfway there.
Jim Harbaugh damn near got fired and had to take a pay cut before eventually he got his.
Took him 13 years in the college game.
And each year that Lanning's been here, you've gotten better. Your recruiting classes keep getting better. You've killed it in the transfer portal. You went from that first year to being a really good team, but coming up short of even a shot at the title game. And then last year, the one team that you couldn't get over the hump in a close one is Washington. This year, you go into the Big Ten, you beat 3 playoff teams, 3 in the regular season: Penn State, Boise State, and Ohio State. You run the Big Ten, go undefeated, number 1 team. Like you had a great year. It just so happens that you got a bad draw and you lost to Ohio State. But, and by the way, you put together a top 4 recruiting class in the country. I just, how anyone looks at this, other than your future is very bright. I get being disappointed, but saying somehow that this season was a waste or a loss or a failure,
that's too much.
But by that account, every year, everyone's season is a failure other than one team. And winning a national championship is really effing hard. And it drives me a little batty, some of the narrative that's out there from a lot of the fan base. And I'm not even a fan. I don't root for the program. I just try to take an objective viewpoint of it. But my gosh, man, some perspective needs to be had here a little bit.
Fan's gonna fan.
I guess.
No, it's the truth.
Yeah, it's
fans will fan.
Fans will fan.
Yes, fans will fan. Hey, Buckley, you little bitch.
Yeah, what's up?
What? How's that feel in the pantheon of stinging losses? Where does it rank?
It's really bad.
Was it?
I mean,
because I heard some people talking about how the fact that it was a blowout and was over from like the first minute, that actually takes a little bit of the sting out.
I mean, it gave you 3 hours to let it settle in, I guess. But I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I told both of you before I left, I thought either team could win this game. So I wasn't necessarily surprised in a loss. I was surprised it was a loss that looked like that, because that was tough to take. Naked eye, for me, the O-line was a huge problem right from the outset, and that was shocking. The fact that they couldn't get protection for Gabriel, they couldn't run the ball up the middle, they couldn't really run the ball to the outside. Like, it was ugly early, and looking at like 14-0 at the 8-minute mark, thinking this thing might already be over. It was pretty sobering, except for the fact that the beverages were flowing.
Yeah, how many beverages did you have?
Enough.
Well, no, how many did you have?
At the game or in total on the day? I mean, I just kind of kept drinking.
Yeah,
so,
right. That's the right
that's
answer.
That's a pro move.
Yeah.
Started with
never ask a Navy man how many he's had. It's no one's damn business.
Started with a couple Moscow mules outside the stadium at a tailgate, and then
copper mugs.
And then just
weak.
Well, I guess it wasn't my tailgate. Someone was giving me free booze. You don't complain about how it comes.
Who brings copper mugs to a tailgate?
That's what I was wondering.
Disposable.
What if you threw it out and said, what is this crap? Where's the copper mug?
Yeah, I didn't do that.
And then what'd you have did you have a bunch of beers in there? $20
beers?
The
beers were like $20 each. You get the tall boys or whatever. And that, so
hot. Well, it's definitely fodder for those who think Oregon's, to steal a line from Jason Sukanik, a paper tiger. Yeah. It's definitely fodder for those people.
Sure.
Because Oregon,
they're having their best day of the last year.
Well, they get into these games, and at some point, these big games, like think about all the big games that Oregon has had with Dan Lanning. How many have they won? I mean, big games.
Pretty much just the Ohio State game, and then the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, they won the Big Ten game.
Yeah.
So Ohio State, Penn State won.
Yeah.
Lost. Washington.
Twice, 3 times.
Washington.
Lost a Civil War.
Ohio State. I guess you could. That was kind of an upset. The Oregon State game. I mean, it was a big game. It's a rivalry game. But
right.
Was it?
You would not have counted it as a big win, but it was a marquee loss.
It wasn't a marquee game.
Yeah.
So 2-4, is that what I counted?
Something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah,
he lost 6 games though in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but no one cares about that. When you lose,
no one does.
4 out of the 6 are the biggest games of the year. It's a problem.
No,
and so I'm just saying those people that will point to that. Look, at some point, you got to turn that around. Like that is the knock on you.
But I do feel like the knock has changed each year. First, it wasn't you can't beat your rivals. Then it was you can't, and then they beat their rivals. And then it was you can't win a big game, and then they won a big game. And it's like, oh well, you can't win a big game when it really matters.
Yeah.
I mean, the goalposts kind of keep moving on that, and the bottom line is.
And I guess that's my thing where I come from is, with the exception of like a Nick Saban, like everyone kind of goes through this. right? Ryan Day is going through this right now. And if Ohio State finishes it off, then he doesn't have to go through it anymore, right? James Franklin has this going on, and his is in spades, by the way. His isn't 3 years. Franklin's is like 8 or 9 years of this. Dabo had this before he broke through. Notre Dame certainly has had this for the last 30 years. Like, everyone goes through this until you do it. And when you look through the history of college football, I mean, we can go back and look at people that win national championships. It's not a big group of people. It tends to be pretty small, and it tends to be the same school. So I guess that's just my point is everyone goes through this unless you truly are the freak of freaks. And no offense to Dan Lanning, no offense to the Oregon program, you're not freaks. We even talked about that. And some people got mad at me. I said, this is a very good Oregon team. It's not an elite team. I didn't think there was an elite team in this tournament. Now, Ohio State may have just gave me the FU, and I'll maybe take Ohio State out. Maybe they are the one elite team, and they're going to cruise through this. That's the only team that I've watched in this playoff that I've looked at and was like, whoa, that team is really good. Everyone else I've been like, yeah, those are good teams. They deserve to be here, but they're not elite. And so if that's your standard is to be the elite of the elite, no, you're not there yet, and maybe you get there, maybe you don't. But it's really, I guess it's just really, really hard to do, especially when you're talking about 3 years, as Buck said. 6 years, what is the breakthrough?
6 years is the shortest any coach has taken to win his first national championship in college.
After today, there's going to be 4 teams left, and Oregon will have beaten 2 of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there anybody else that's beaten 2 of them?
Well, was there any team that had beaten 3 that we even got into the dance?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So to say that this season is a failure, disappointment the way it ended, sure. Oh, and by the way, you had the second year in a row we had a Heisman finalist. So, I mean, come on.
Well, who are you? Are these like are you on like message boards or something?
Oh no, I think this is, by the way, when you look at whether it's Twitter, whether you look at Instagram, whether you look, I was listening to the morning and the afternoon shows, some of the hosts, when you hear like the feedback that's coming on the text program, I just think there's this sense of the entire thing is a waste and throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I just can't abide.
No,
by
I can't
that.
get there at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're at Oregon. You just keep reloading, right?
Yeah.
Transfer portal. You got all that money.
Yep.
Phil Knight's behind you.
I think RJ makes a good point on the text line. He says Oregon's done everything but win it all to this point, and that's the last thing that's left for them to do. So until it happens, it's going to be championship or bust, and people are calling this
That's
a
right.
bust.
We talked about that at the start of the year.
Well,
the expectations are higher.
And if you want me, because I've tried to put a very rosy spin on this. If you want me to put a negative spin on this,
you can do that too.
I can put that on there because I think next year is a look the hell out sort of year. You're going to lose probably 4 of your 5 offensive linemen. You're going to lose your second Heisman Trophy finalist quarterback in a row. You're going to lose every one of your receivers. You're going to lose your All-American tight end. Your entire secondary is basically gone. Your entire defensive line is gone. And yes, you've been recruiting very well, and there's depth. And, Sadiq looks like he can step up and be this great tight end. But outside of the one game where he had the 2 catches, he hasn't really done much of anything. We haven't seen any of the other receivers do anything. And we have no idea what Dante Moore, if you go out and get another quarterback, we have no idea what that's bringing to the table. So this idea that that next year is a given that you're going to be back, if you want a negative spin on it, it is that. And by the way, you have hit home runs in the transfer portal. When you look at the vast majority of your truly elite players over the last 2 years, receiver, D-line, quarterback, running backs, they've all, for the most part, been transfer portal kids. And we do know that from Florida State and teams like that, it's really hard to do that year after year after year in the transfer portal. You got to grow and from within. You've got to get the depth that comes. And so these recruiting classes you've been putting together, which have been elite, it's time for some of those kids to let them drop and become the basis of this team, because the base of your team the last couple of years has been the transfer portal. And so I would just say to anyone, if you want the kind of negative view on it, it's next year is a big old question mark. I don't think last year was a question mark. I don't think this year was a question mark coming in. Next year is more of a question mark than any year you've had in the Dan Lanning era, minus the first one, because we had no idea what he was bringing to the table.
All right. The text line is calling you out on your 6-year thing there, Buckley, saying that.
What'd they say?
Well, Bob Stoops won in his 2nd year at Oklahoma. And that is true. He did.
Did he not coach? He didn't have a head coach job anywhere else first?
No, he only coached at Oklahoma. Did you know that about Bob Stoops?
I can't say. I knew that he had won in his first 2 years, but I assume when Buck said that he had coached somewhere else.
That dude coached 22 seasons all at Oklahoma.
Why was that the stat circulating all over Twitter yesterday?
Well, stupid Twitter.
Yeah, fake news and all that.
All right, there's a couple things in the game I want to get to, and then we'll move on to Texas. Texas, that great game against Arizona State, coming up on The Fan.
Oregon Ducks football is on The Fan.
Allen, look.
The Rose Bowl. Did you guys see that? Oregon lost.
I did.
They lost. 41-21 was that the final?
I believe that is correct. 34-0 at the half. Or excuse me, 34-8.
8.
Yeah, they scored that one, and then they came out and scored again, and you were like, is there something? And then Ohio State was like, yeah, there's not. Just got to 41, and thanks for coming.
A couple things from the game. I thought that the early punts were a little out of character for Dan Lanning.
Well, the one
I
was
thought the
from,
early
like,
punts were just terrible. The punts themselves.
Well, the
like,
punts
Well,
themselves.
yeah,
were,
I mean, that
the
didn't help you
punter
at all.
The punter was bad. But the first two, so we had two. The first one was way down in their own territory.
yeah.
But you only needed a yard. And it's like, some guys are going for that these days. I think James Franklin did that recently.
Boy, dude,
but
it was
then the
from-
second
it was
one
from,
was,
like the 32 or something.
well, guys do it. And
yeah.
when you only need a yard and Lanning's pretty aggressive, I thought maybe there they would go for it, particularly how the defense got slayed in the first series.
Yeah.
And then the second one might have been even more, I don't know, it surprised me. I think that was 4th and 4, but they were in
4th and 6 from the
Was it
OSU
6?
49.
Yeah, okay, so right at midfield.
Right at midfield.
That's another one I thought maybe they'd go for, but perhaps he was just saying, hey, our O-line's getting beat up and we need to
And I think there was the idea
stem the
maybe
tide
that
here.
they thought that I don't think they thought their defense was going to get run through like that, and that eventually they would settle down, and they never did.
Well,
and
that early, if you could pin them at their own 15 or 10, then maybe you can play the game that way.
like
But
the second one surprised me more than the first one. Like, look, I get that the defense got run through with 3 plays, but both of those were kind of schemes. The one to the tight end, Scott, was just kind of a fun little, scheme that they cooked up, and then you lost track of Jeremiah Smith somehow when they ran the fake fly sweep motion. So, yeah, I mean, you gave up the touchdown in 3 plays, but again, I think if you're on the Oregon sidelines, you're like, all right, kudos to them, came out with the script, caught us looking a little bit. We're going to settle down. Well, it turns out that wasn't the case. So,
Hey, will you shut up?
But I am with you that the down 14-0 at midfield, 4th and 6, that's the one where I thought, all right, maybe he's going to get a little aggressive here and say,
I thought so too.
We've got to find a way to stem the tide. And I think they only gave up a field goal on that, but
And then the third one, they went for it.
Yeah.
Then at that point, there's like, we got to go for it.
Yes, and that when they came out,
But-
it was like once you're down by that, everything was 4-down territory. It didn't matter what.
And the Evan Stewart sitch,
Yeah.
that was a little weird.
yeah.
I guess they said he was dealing with something going into the game. They thought he could go, and then somehow in pregame they
Dinged
just
during pregame?
What does that mean? He was
I don't
dinged
know.
in warmups.
So he obviously had an injury going into the game that they weren't talking about because they never talk about it. So then you go into warm up, and this happens all the time with guys, is when a guy's questionable, you tape him up, maybe you give him a little something for the pain, and then you go out during pregame and you're like, hey, we're going to need you to go a little harder than you normally do in pregame, and let's test this thing out. And then based on that, you make your decision. So something, whether either he tweaked it during pregame or it was just like, hey, this isn't good enough. And it sounds like Stewart wanted to go. And Oregon obviously looked at him and said, hey, like, you're not going to be effective, or there's a chance you injure this more. And so they sat him down. So no Evan Stewart. Tez Johnson gets dinged up early and wasn't quite the same player. And then Jordan James goes out. You were up against it anyways, and I'm not saying those guys make any sort of difference, but when you lose a guy that in the first game was a difference maker for you, we know what Tez means to the offense, and then you lose your best back, and not like you could run the ball anyways. You ran the ball for like 2 yards all game. I'll have to actually look it up what happened without the sacks, but it was just another log on the
I think
fire.
it was negative yards.
It was another log on the fire of this wasn't going to be your day.
Yeah, it looked like at one point there, James Stewart and did you say that Tez was out? Tez was hurt.
Yeah.
He came
Negative
back in.
23 yards rushing with the sacks.
Yeah.
Dude, they got 8 sacks and held the Ducks to negative 23 yards rushing.
Yeah.
That is pure dominance.
Yes. So if you take out the
God.
Gabriel stuff, they ran for 14, 18, 21. Yeah, they ran for 21 yards.
Wow.
And they got like half of that on one play. There was one Jordan James
Jordan
play that he
James
went
ran
around
for
the
11
end.
yards.
Yeah.
But when you fall down 17-0, like you know,
Changes what your
changes
your
what
approach,
you can
I
do,
guess.
and you become unbalanced. And again, that adds to the defensive line's ability to just pin their ears back and go. And we knew going into this game that Ohio State, after the Oregon game, Ohio State, we talked about it. They made an entire defensive shift in philosophy. They simplified things, and they started running different schemes. And you saw that. And their thing was, you're not going to beat us over the top. And then you take out Evan Stewart, and that's another one. But they just did such a better job in the secondary, and you can tell that Ohio State had a bee in their bonnet. The secondary got embarrassed in the first one, and Jeremiah Smith came out after the pregame stuff, and he had made a bold proclamation that he was going to be the best player on the field, that no one could guard him, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's talking crap." Yeah, he was, and then he went and backed it up. And also give credit to Will Howard, who had been much maligned, even by his own team at times. And Will Howard came out and played a hell of a ball game.
Jeremiah Smith is not eligible for the draft until 2027.
And if he came out, he would be the first non-quarterback drafted this year as a true freshman.
But you think about, like, they're going to get some good transfer quarterbacks.
You would
just
think.
having him there.
Yes.
I'd go there.
Yes.
Hell, I will go there.
Well,
they may call me.
You look at the Ohio State receivers.
Throw it up, he'll catch it.
That they have put out. And if you want to go all the way back to Chris Carter, but I mean, just Chris Carter, Ted Ginn, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had Terry McLaurin. I mean, it's stupid.
This guy might be the best of all of them.
And so many people
Chris Carter's hard to.
So many people in this program have said that, yes, it's a long way to go, but this will be the best receiver to come out of Ohio State. And that's not like saying you're the best receiver to come out of Tallahassee JUCO. That is the premier receiver program in college football. And people are saying that this is different.
He's funny to me because he's such a specimen.
Yeah.
But then he takes off his helmet and he looks like he's 12.
I know.
And he's like, hee hee hee.
What I'm scared of is that last year.
That's what he sounded like.
Where's he from? Do we know? Where's that kid? Where's that kid from?
Up your ass.
We'll find out.
Knew. Right? Is that a thing?
All
right, let's take a break. Texas gonna Texas. Let's talk about that game next on The Fan.
Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Ryan Buckley with this Sports Center update. First on the Fan. On the college gridiron today, the Sugar Bowl being played after a 21-hour postponement. Notre Dame and Georgia battling in the fourth quarter right now for the final spot in the college football playoff semifinals. The winner gets Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Right now, Notre Dame is leading 20-10, about halfway through the fourth quarter. Then coming up at 5 o'clock, the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl between Ole Miss and Duke. That one over on ESPN. Lane Kiffin's Rebels favored by 17. Pro Bowl rosters announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off the AFC roster for the first time since becoming a starter. Seattle quarterback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative for the NFC. On the hardwood, the Blazers back in action tonight, visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle both out for Portland. Delano Banton is questionable. Tip-offs at 7:30. The Lake Show favored by 7.5. And in the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight is number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tipping off right here on the Fan at 7, with pregame coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it over on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks are favored by 4.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley from 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Your favorite fan shows are on YouTube. Mash the subscribe button and like us for live streaming video and 1080 The Fan on demand.
What's the most resilient parasite?
Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Can build cities, can transform the world, and rewrite all the rules.
That's what I'll be doing every single night.
Which is why...
No!
I have to steal it.
What are you talking about, Willis?
This is Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
It's going to work. It's passable, okay? This isn't terrible.
The best in local, regional, and national sports. With no hidden agenda. Primetime with Isaac and Sue on 1080 The Fan.
That's right. Prime time with Isaac and Souk on 1080 The Fan. We are here for you.
Felt like that might have been the ball game. Georgia down by 13. 9 minutes to go. Fourth and a couple from inside the red zone. They go for it and
do not get it.
Do not get it. And now you're still down 2 scores under 10 minutes. That might have been their last chance.
Notre Dame in this game scored 17 of their 23 points in 54 seconds.
Yep.
What is it? The middle 8 they always talk about?
Yep.
They got a fumble and a touchdown in the
middle 2.
But it really was kind of the middle 2, wasn't it?
Or middle 3, maybe.
It wasn't even the middle. It was like a middle minute.
I mean, no one's really put together any drive. The best drive of the game was when Georgia went on a 12-play, 71-yard drive, but then fumbled the ball at the Notre Dame 13.
Notre Dame is saying, "Hey, Gunnar Stockton beat us, and he can't. He can't."
No.
Which is probably what you would have expected Notre Dame to do.
Yeah. I just thought if you would have told me that Notre Dame, their leading rusher had 65 yards and it was their quarterback, I would say Georgia wins this game. But
special teams tutty.
Yep.
And 2 turnovers.
2 turnovers.
I mean, there's your difference right there.
Yep.
By the way, you were talking about all the great Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah, there's so many.
And we missed so many.
Oh, we missed so many.
There's so many more.
Somebody brought up David Boston.
Yeah.
Remember what a badass that guy was?
Oh, Michael Thomas before he got hurt in the NFL. Michael Thomas was
Olave.
ridiculous.
I don't Chris Olave now who's hurt but was doing really well.
I don't think
in New
you
Orleans.
mentioned him. Harrison Jr. Terry Glenn comes up a lot on the text line.
It's just it's an absurd amount of players. I believe I don't think that there's another university that can match them for wide receiver U. Alabama in recent times has put together some scary groups, but that's wide receiver U. And so as a freshman to get labeled by the way, other great Joey Galloway, by the way.
Yeah.
Joey Galloway even said, this is the best kid that I've ever seen at Ohio State. So when other Ohio State receiving greats are calling you that as a true freshman, just look out. And we got another year of having to deal with that kid before he can go on and be the
I like
top pick in the NFL
Galloway as an analyst.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I think he's
solid.
Good.
Yeah.
And they keep him they just keep him in the studio mostly.
Yeah,
I mean, he was out there.
He was out on the field.
But he's just he's really good.
He's
way better than Desmond Howard.
Can we just
They should put Galloway on College Game Day. By the way, did you see Lee Corso's teeth?
No, I wasn't trying to pay attention
Dude.
to that. Is it getting bad?
I
He's
don't know.
like 1,000 years
I
old.
know he is.
Wait, what was going on with his teeth?
Well, they put him back on there, and they just keep propping his ass up. And I don't know, he had some recent health issues. I don't know. what happened with him. And of course, we know he had the stroke a while ago. But now he's missing the bottom part of his, I guess if you're looking at him, his right, from the middle part of his mandible
Gone.
over, his teeth are gone.
What?
Yeah, I see it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
So I don't know what happened.
I don't.
Why do they have to keep trotting him out there?
Well,
then?
because he wants to.
I guess
then
so.
tell him like say goodbye and have a nice little. I don't know.
I know.
Like,
Dude, I've been
it's
saying
time for a
this-
nice send off. It's been time for like 8 years.
I've been saying this for years, and it's not going to happen. So it's not worth griping about. But it's just embarrassing. It's awful.
Yeah, it's not good. So I don't pay any attention. I did enjoy. I guess some people didn't realize what was going on. So the Fiesta Bowl bled into the Rose Bowl, right? Because of the overtime. So I was flipping back and forth between ESPN and ESPN2, which is where they started the Rose Bowl. And I was like, God, come on. So I'm trying to bring it up on my phone. And luckily the overtime ended pretty quickly. So you only missed, if you were waiting to flip over, you only missed the first Ohio State drive. But I was kind of going back and forth. And then right after that, ESPN2 cut to the Pat McAfee broadcast on ESPN2, like the megacast, and then the regular game went back to ESPN. I don't think a lot of people realize that, and McAfee was cursing, and it just, it's a terrible broadcast. Like he has, it's like amateur hour.
It's like
just
him and his stooges just live watching the thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
pretty much. And I guess a lot of people didn't realize that the game was back on ESPN.
So they thought they were just stuck with that as their only option?
They were just stuck with that. And people were like tweeting, like, what the hell is this? They didn't figure out what was going on. And someone was like, people on Twitter kept pointing out, dude, just go back over to ESPN. That's the normal broadcast. But I had that for a second. I was like, what did they? I was like, oh, yeah, they probably went back to the other one.
Well, let's take a break because now we're behind.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about my Arizona State Sun Devils.
Hell of an effort.
Almost pulling off the upset of your Texas Longhorns.
Dude, fourth in forever. How do you get beat behind when you're
Well, they
you're at the
ran
goal
they
line?
ran cover they did a cover zero
just-
full blitz thing. That's one of the dumbest. And dude, well, we'll talk about it. But Kenny Dillingham after the game,
He's got a dog mentality.
he said that was a call he wanted back.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it when they got behind
That was
everyone. I
bad.
just sat there and was like, I can't believe that just happened.
We'll get to that game next on the Fan.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
Dan Lanning didn't get hired at a 6-6 Oregon program.
football playoff game.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say the Boise. I'm gonna push back on that. The Boise State game was fine.
No, it wasn't.
This Notre Dame Georgia game is okay. It's okay. But the highlight was Texas and ASU.
Yeah, I don't think okay. I don't know. I don't think either of those are.
I would say this round has not lived up to the.
You didn't think the Boise game was intriguing?
There were points in it where it seemed like a game, but overall, we looked at these 4 matchups and said this is going to be awesome, and it's been kind of okay.
But Texas-Arizona State was great. Was a flamethrower.
But that's just
and
one
it
of
didn't look like it at the beginning.
It was so
everyone
good.
was like, "Oh, 17-3, game's over."
Well, it's classic Sark trying to lose with a massive talent advantage. I mean, they are unbelievable. I don't know how.
You just have no faith in them.
They are so talented, and they continue to try to lose.
Yeah.
And yet they win because they're so talented. It's maddening.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I have I'll tell you what. If that's the Ohio State team that shows up, they'll beat Texas by 30.
Yeah.
But watch now Texas drop them and give Ohio State everything they can handle.
Texas is really, really talented. You should not overlook them for that reason. It's just that I think when it comes down to it, in the end, you don't trust them. I don't think you can trust Stark or Ewers. We've been saying that all year. But at the same time, here they are.
Yeah.
And they're 6-point underdogs to Ohio State. That's an awful high spread, dude.
Well, it's just it goes off of the fact that
I know, but
they got
that's-
lucky to pull one out against
Listen.
ASU, and Ohio State looks like the last 2 weeks. Ohio State looks like the Death Star.
But this is the whole adage of bet numbers, not teams.
Sure.
And I know the whole world is going to pile on Ohio State because of what you just said. And I'm here to tell you, I bet you that game goes down to the wire.
Yeah.
Because it's there's talent all over the football field.
Yes, there is.
On both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if there's any team that can slow down Ohio State, it might be Texas. I don't know if they can beat them because they'll have a dumb penalty or a stupid turnover because they always do.
Yeah.
But that team is as talented as Ohio. Well, I don't know if there's. I think they might be as talented as Ohio State. I mean, if you go man for man, it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's
probably the second most talented team in the tournament.
Yes, it's the second most talented team in the
Texas.
tournament. I don't know if they have. I mean, obviously, Jared, the receiving core for Ohio State is pretty special in the two backs. But Texas is really, really stinking good, which is why I'm surprised that Arizona State, especially after falling behind early, Arizona State just kept chugging. And
you gotta give them a lot of credit.
And Texas's offense could do nothing. I mean, Arizona State's defense, and I was like, all right, eventually they're just going to get worn down, and Scadaboo's over there throwing up, and Arizona State doesn't have their best receiver. He's out with a broken collarbone. And, Levitt wasn't playing a great game or anything like that. And his best plays were just moving around with his legs. In fact, when they gave up that, was it like 4th and 12, and he scrambled for that thing in overtime, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Texas just gave that up. They're going to lose this game. I just thought the Texas defense got gassed at the end because they were on the field so damn much.
So 4th and what was it, 13?
4th and 13 was the Ewers one.
Down 7 in overtime.
Yep.
And they run a cover 0. They all out blitz.
Yep.
He switches to max protect. They protect him great, and he goes over the top. I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah.
When
Can't let that happen.
You cannot let. Well, you can't call that.
That's right.
They need 12 yards.
Yeah.
You win the game. 11 yards. You win the
zero.
game. 10 yards. They get 10 yards. You win the game. The only thing you can't do is let them have let them get in the end zone. And so the only real way, if you're playing sound defense, that they're going to get in the end zone, well, there's actually 2. One is that, and you called it. And 2, it's somehow somebody falls down or they just scramble and get in. But that's not likely to happen if you give them something over the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why the hell do you call that?
I don't know.
That's the dumbest. Kenny Dillingham's great. I love him. That was the dumbest call of the whole tournament.
Well, and the fact, too, that you only had 3 guys go out in that route for Texas. Not one of them ran anything under like a 15 to 20 yard route. Arizona State had 2 guys playing underneath for some reason with their thumbs planted somewhere. And for whatever reason, the safety in the middle of the field, who the one job he has when you're in that look and you're playing the only safety in the middle of the field, the one thing you can't do is what? Get beat behind you. And yet somehow you bite on the worst little fake route that the slot guy had, who was going outside anyways, and you get the ball thrown over. I could not believe it.
Yeah, it feels like a bad play call and then on top of it, bad football execution.
I just was sitting there, and as I watched that ball go over his head, I thought to myself, oh my God. Like, they're going to watch film, and that poor guy, and I don't know who he was, whoever the safety was for Arizona State, is just going to sit there. And I've been, unfortunately, in these sort of situations where the coach is going to look at him and say, what were you doing? And his answer is going to be, I don't know. Because there's just no reason for it. You have one job, and you didn't get it done. And it is absolutely heartbreaking because Arizona State had that game. Now, to be fair, Texas is going to Texas. They have one of the best kickers in the country, and he decides to go all Jake Moody on you. Which one's going to kill their kicker first, Kyle Shanahan or Steve Sarkisian? I think they're probably on some sort of therapy call together.
Shanahan.
I mean, it's just like that's one of the best kickers in the country, and he can't close that game out. I mean, that's just Texas did not want that game, and Arizona State, like everyone was pulling for it, and just 4th and 13, and you give that up. Oh my gosh, that's bad. And then, there's the targeting call as well, which
was targeting.
Absolutely.
So I still don't know why it wasn't called targeting.
I think that was one of those, and this is why, like going back to that first Oregon-Ohio State game, normally in that situation, I think refs tend to swallow whistles because I don't think they want the game decided on it. But dude, that's targeting.
Well, but they reviewed it, so it's not.
I was surprised.
Didn't they throw the flag on it? So they reviewed it. Or maybe they didn't.
I don't think they threw the flag on it.
But they had to review it.
They had to review it.
And the fact they reviewed it and didn't call it when it was textbook, I just didn't understand.
It was weird because they call targeting on anything. In college, they're just looking to do it. And on the end of the Quinn Ewers interception, which again, Texas, what are you doing? Just don't turn the ball over and you win the game. And Quinn Ewers is like, nah, I want to put this one up into the middle of double coverage and a cover 2 look, see what happens. I couldn't believe they didn't call the targeting on the one where Arizona State 100% should have been targeting, but they didn't call the other one either where I think it was Isaiah Bond came across and on the interception, the other safety comes through and forearms him in the chops, defenseless receiver, and bends him backwards. I was like, oh God, that's coming back. And they didn't do anything. They were like, nah, it's fine. There were 2 big targeting calls in a sport where they love to call targeting that clearly looked like targeting, and they didn't call either one. I was really surprised.
It's weird. Very weird.
And either one of those, by the way, could have tilted that game, but I mean, that's not why this game was decided. It just was kind of one of those weird, odd anomaly things where I really thought at least the one, if not both of those, 100% should have been called.
But the targeting, the middle of the field targeting there on Arizona State's last drive, that might have been the game. I mean, I know their kicking game sucks,
but it would have given them an opportunity because it 100% should have been a first down.
Yes. I loved Jake Plummer just fanboying out on the sideline.
His ripped T-shirt.
I thought that was great. He's an old hippie.
Yeah.
He's probably on shrooms. That's
Dropping
his new business, right?
F-bombs down there. And who was that play-by-play guy? He was awful.
I don't know who was calling that game.
You didn't notice how he was bah!
Yeah, I just
how much do you love ball?
Yeah, I just don't remember who it was on the call.
Tone it down, fella.
I'll look that up.
He's an over-broadcaster. That guy there.
Let's see who we got.
I'll wait here.
Bloop, bloop, bloop. Oh, for God's sakes. Now we're getting into some weird. Apparently there's
play-by-play porn.
No. When I typed in Texas
Sounds
ASU
like Tessitore.
broadcast team, somehow it brought up the staff directory for the MSU Mustangs athletic department. Not really sure why that is, but
yeah, confirmed it was Joe Tessitore.
You need to work on your Google game.
What should I have Googled besides Texas ASU broadcast team?
Well, I'm just saying. There's an art to it.
I Googled Texas Arizona State play-by-play announcer.
There you go. That's it right there.
That was better.
But I first just did play-by-play, and it started giving me the list of plays from the game, so that didn't.
Is Joe Tessitore really well liked? I think he might be. He's like one of the. Yeah. I thought he was way too over the top.
This headline: Joe Tessitore was the MVP of the Texas Arizona State thriller.
Puke, scattaboo puke.
Said he was feeling sloshy.
Can I also point out?
What is it? Why was he puking?
He said he just drank too much water.
Yeah.
And he was feeling sloshy.
Yeah. Who knows? He's hungover.
Probably the roids.
Apparently, he was accused of being hungover, and he didn't take kindly to that on Twitter today because he
I
said he doesn't drink.
And by the way, I was just joking.
No, I know.
Hey, jerk.
Someone else on Twitter said that about him. Said there was a photo of him from the night before, and he's like, "I was with my family at 8:30, and I don't drink."
I would like to point out because
Please point it out.
That guy's such a great story, and he didn't get it going until the end, but he's throwing touchdowns, he's catching passes. Dude, that guy is an absolute beast. He will not be a good NFL player. So let me plant my flag.
Look at you pooping right all over Scattaboo.
Well, like I saw people like, oh, first round. No.
Yeah, I saw someone say what a great fit he'd be for the Niners. I'm like, no.
So he had 30 carries, 143 rushing yards.
Dude's awesome.
2 rushing tutties. He had 8 catches, 99 receiving yards, and a 42-yard passing touchdown.
That guy's awesome.
At one point in the fourth quarter, I think they said Scattaboo had more yards than Texas.
Yes.
He won the MVP for the game on the losing team.
Yeah, he was outgaining them. And he did it all while either was battling dehydration or illness or whatever. And you could tell that he didn't have his stamina. He kept having to pull him out. And there was one point where Dillingham was kind of patting him on the head. And when they were down by 16, it kind of felt like Dillingham was like, yeah, we don't have it.
Like, you don't have to do this.
And he just kept going back out there. You know, and then the one play where the left guard picked him up and threw him into the end zone. Baller-ass play by 77. It's freaking awesome. Dude, even on the play where they got stuffed at the goal line, which led to the safety, for whatever reason, Arizona State decided to not block the defensive end on a 4th and 1, which I can't say I've ever seen before in my entire life. Do you know the play of which I'm speaking?
No, I don't remember.
It was the one where Arizona State did not convert on the 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 from like inside the 5, and that was the play where Texas got it, and then they got the safety, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Arizona State got stuffed. It was one where Scattaboo got stuffed on the 4th and whatever. Literally, Arizona State was in a goal line formation, and they blocked down and literally left the defensive end in a goal line situation unblocked. And he came through and hit Scattaboo untouched. I have never seen a goal line situation where a team just is like, hey, you know what? Just not going to block this guy. Unbelievable. Again, just that's kind of the weird part of these games is that's just...
Yeah, it's all the variants.
It's all the variants. Yeah. And I guarantee they're going to go back and watch film, and they're going to ask the left guard and tackle, and they're going to say, excuse me, guys, the hell is this? And they're going to say the same thing as the safety.
I think we have a clip of them saying it. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And it's the worst feeling to be in that meeting when you don't have an answer for what the hell you're doing. In one of the biggest moments of the game, you just put your head up your arse.
I think this is what that sounds like in the meeting.
See, we have exclusive audio here.
It's so bad. That doesn't really happen a lot in the NFL, but it does happen in college football. And when you go back and watch these games, or if you pay attention to line player little intricacies, sometimes you just realize they're not professionals, even though they're getting paid now. And sometimes they just do really, really dumb things.
Is that one last thing here? That little play where the offensive lineman picked up his running back?
Yeah.
No, he picked up Scattaboo.
Yeah, picked up Scattaboo.
And threw him into the end zone.
Yeah.
Does that open up the idea of a new offense in college football where the fat guys just go back and pick up their running back? And
it used to be illegal.
Someone on the YouTube saying it still is illegal. That it
yeah,
have...
like
that should have been called.
You can push. You're not supposed to be able to.
Dude, he picked him up.
You're not supposed to be able to pull.
Well, that's what I thought. When I was watching that, I'm like, I didn't know you could do that.
I feel like that never gets called, though, even if it does happen.
Let's create a new offense.
Look, he was stopped, and he just kind of grabbed him and fell backwards, and then like Scattaboo landed on his big fat belly, and then he kind of rolled into the end zone. It was awesome.
Scattaboo.
Yeah, and they kept showing his dad, who looks just so broy, and he's a great story for college football. But my guess is, if he was wise, he should try to get another year because he's going to make more money in college than he will in the NFL.
Well, we said this the other day, and I think the world was rooting for Arizona State.
Yes.
I will say, though, if Kenny Dillingham, Sam Levitt, and Cam Scattaboo were on Georgia,
we would hate them so
or Ohio State or Texas, we would absolutely hate them.
Yes.
They would be the villains of college football.
Yes.
But they're not.
They're not.
They're on little old Arizona State, so we like them.
And also, be careful with the ASU thing because it was such a cool story, but I've seen because all the players are like, we're coming back. We run the Big 12 and we're back. And, look no further than TCU. TCU got to the national title game And yeah, they got bludgeoned by Georgia, but they beat Michigan to get there. And it was the same thing, right? They came back as like a preseason top 10 team. What has TCU done? So the ASU sleeping giant thing, like this was a great year. Look at how many one-score games went their way, right? They had a lot of good fortune, and it was a hell of a season. Just be careful with it. Like they're going to rank ASU next year in probably the top 10 or 12 to start the season. And if you had to ask me right now,
fade them.
Does ASU make the college football playoff, or does ASU have 4 losses next year? I'll tell you right now, knowing nothing about what they have coming back, I will take the ASU has 4 losses.
I'm with you.
Before I'll say they make the college football playoff. I hope I'm wrong because it's a great story, but we see this in college football where someone puts together a really fun season, and then we're like, oh, look out for these teams, and then they kind of have a tendency to.
Well, and after the SMU thing this year, they're not going to put a second Big 12 team again. Probably so not. You probably have to win the whole conference again to get there again.
It's hard.
Well, guys, Notre Dame is closing out Georgia, and it's time to turn the channel to a real sport, the Century.
Golf. Play some golf. Some Shooter McGavin.
I've just turned it to Sepp Straka putting for birdie on 14.
Get ready for Notre Dame, Ohio State in the national championship.
The season is here.
Jacket, green jacket, who gives a
All right, In the News is next on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Ryan Buckley with this Sports Center update first on the Fan of the College Gridiron. Notre Dame getting ready to close out the Sugar Bowl. Just seconds left in that one. They lead 23-10 and are on their way to a date with Penn State in the semifinal in the Orange Bowl in the next round. Of course, the other semifinal going to be Ohio State and Texas after their wins Saturday. Coming up at 5 o'clock tonight, it's the Tax-Slayer Gator Bowl between Ole Miss and Duke. That one over on ESPN. Lane Kiffin's Rebels favored by 17. Pro Bowl rosters announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off the AFC roster for the first time since becoming a starter. Seattle cornerback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative from the NFC. On the hardwood, the Blazers are back in action tonight, visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Jeremy Grant and Matisse Thybulle both out for Portland. Delano Banton is questionable. Tip-off is at 7:30. The Lakers favored by 7.5. In the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight as number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tips right here on the Fan at 7 o'clock with pregame coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it over on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks are favored by 4.5. Meanwhile, Portland visits number 19 Gonzaga tonight. Swag has the call for that one over on 910 ESPN Portland with pregame coverage starting at 5:30. The Zags, though, favored by 34.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time. Tuesdays at 7 after Isaac and Sue on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Well, it's the new year, and hopefully everything is going well for everybody. Has anyone's New Year's already crashed?
Yeah, that kid on the sideline for Georgia, he might need an advocate.
Oh yeah,
after the ref ran into him.
Yeah, Kirby Smart may murder that poor kid. Yeah. So if you do get assaulted by Kirby Smart, or really get assaulted by anyone, you have a tree fall on you, down power line, maybe you get in a car wreck, freak hide-a-bed accident. The bottom line is this: if you do get injured, it kind of sucks because 1, you're hurt. 2, you got a bunch of medical bills. 3, you're not certain whether you miss work or not. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And you never know exactly what your next step is. And we're here to tell you that if you have been hurt before or you've been hurt in an accident, the first thing you should do is contact representation, because whatever the other entity is, whoever is representing the other side, whether that's another person or a corporation or a company, I promise you, they are going to have attorneys, and they don't have your best interest. And so the beauty part about the advocates is, 1, they're kick-ass people. We've talked to them, really, really good, solid folks up there. And 2, they actually care about you, and they're free to hire. They're free to talk to. They're free to hire. You will never write them a check. And unlike some other attorneys, they're not just about settling. A lot of times it's just, let's take the path of least resistance. Let's find you a cheap little settlement and make sure you're happy with it. And then you kind of move on. Whereas the advocates do not mind fighting for you. They do not mind putting in the time and effort to make sure that you get everything that's coming your way to make sure that you're taken care of. So if you have been injured, hopefully that does not happen. But the first people you need to contact is the advocates. Contact Don and, Donican, as we like to call him, Don and Ken, and all their great attorney teams. And so just keep it in your back pocket if you ever need it. Simply go to advocateslaw.com.
Hey, Brian here with Henderson and Daughter.
Hope you guys are having a good little 2025.
Unless you're a Georgia fan.
Yeah, they're done.
They are done.
Cooked.
Notre Dame moves on.
23-10.
10. Some of us that had Notre Dame money line, go ahead and put a little green in our pocket.
Some of us had Notre Dame in the under. A little more green in the pocket, too.
A couple of bet braggers here. Bet you won't tell us about your losses, will you?
Well, I didn't bet on the I did not bet on the Oregon-Ohio State game. I did not have a good enough feel about that. I do have a sweet little plus 800 line on Notre Dame winning the whole thing.
Ooh.
But I don't think they're going to win the whole thing.
But if they get there, you can hedge.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't like to hedge.
I know.
Hedges.
But if they play Ohio State,
I'll tell you
hedge.
what, if they play Ohio State, there's going to be a hedge because they're not beating Ohio State.
It is December 31, 2024. It's time for it is January 2nd.
There you go.
2024 is 20.
Nope. Nope.
Let me start over.
There you go.
Let me start over, guys. Do we have a record scratch?
No, but I can get one.
It is January 2nd, 2025. It is time now for In the News. I'm your noted newsman, off to a very rockin' start. It's brought to you by the Advocates, injury attorneys at advocateslaw.com. Changes in my notes here. Hold, please.
Waiting.
I didn't update my notesies.
What happens?
Well, your last show of 2024, you emptied out the ITN notes, and they were going all the way back to January.
I know. With that. Yeah, we got a fresh slate on ITN.
Yeah. Starting all over.
In the news here. Actually, I have one left over from the break.
What's that?
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get to it.
I can't find it.
It's that whole bit about letters asking people to track undocumented immigrants. Did you see that?
What?
Over the break?
No, but
Well, would you like me to present the story to you then?
No, dude, I can't do the undocumented thing. I'm over it. Like,
you're over the illegals?
Well, I just, in light of everything that happened, and yet we're still somehow yelling about the border, even though they're both U.S. citizens from the military.
Oh, you're talking about Vegas and
Yeah, they're both born and raised in the United States, and one is an active duty military guy, and yet somehow we're still screaming about the border.
Well, there was a thing in Lincoln County or Lincoln City, where the sheriff was contacting the FBI because they were concerned about letters circulating out there that they were being placed on cars and stuff, where people were being asked to write down the license plate numbers of possible undocumented immigrants.
Because what could possibly go wrong there?
Well, I mean, it's just the idea that, you look undocumented.
Gotcha.
Like, how would you know?
My mom was an undocumented. that
So it's
person
basically
for
just
years.
profiling.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. What could possibly go wrong?
At any rate, we don't need to cover that.
You look suspicious.
Well, you look, I don't know.
I've been told I look suspicious plenty of times.
Well, you do.
Someone once told me to look less threatening.
How'd that go for you?
Not sure what I'm supposed
You know
to do.
how you could do that?
What?
Shave your beard, keep the mustache, wear a toupee. You would look far less threatening.
That is probably true.
It's easy.
It's probably, yeah, I like it. Cover up some tattoos, we're good to go.
It is National Swiss Cheese Day.
You know.
Much like the Oregon defense.
Hey-o.
Not a big, I got nothing against Swiss cheese, but there's just so many better cheeses.
I love Swiss, but
Do
that
you?
is true.
Swiss is kind of mid.
Swiss is mid, but I really love it.
It's good on the right things, but you can do a lot
I
better
think
most
the only
of the time.
time I throw Swiss is sometimes I'll throw a Swiss like on a French dip, and that's all right, but, you know. Why would I have Swiss when I can have a creamy Havarti?
Mm-hmm.
A sharp white cheddar, anybody?
It is also National Buffet Day.
Try to avoid the buffets.
Why on earth would you avoid
a
delicious buffet?
No one has ever left a buffet and thought to themselves that was a great life decision. It's never happened in the history of buffets.
I beg to differ.
You usually leave and it's the same thing. Oh my God, what did I just do?
There's some people that waddle out of there real happy, and you know it.
It's so bad.
Portland's new government is here beginning today.
All right.
Did you know that?
With less power for the fearless leader.
Yeah.
No Toltina.
Well, she's the governor.
Well, she's
this
the governor.
is Portland.
Yeah, the new mayor, I guess. Yeah, that. We've now given more authority to the city council.
It's expanded, so there's now 12 people on the council, and then there's a council person / manager model type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of confusing. There's a city administrator, and then 6 deputies oversee the bureaus and departments, where it used to be the mayor that oversaw the bureaus and departments. I don't know.
So basically, we've neutered the mayor.
I mean, yeah, but there's 12 of them, so he's the deciding vote if they tie, which apparently they tied all day today because they were voting for who the president and the vice president are.
We can't get an odd number in there to make it so there's no ties?
That's what I thought. I'm like, why would you do 12? That's dumb. But then I guess they have the mayor, so he gets to come in over the top rope and lay down the gauntlet.
Drop down the Macho Man elbow.
But anyway, that began today, and apparently it's already been a mess.
Oh.
So.
All right, then. Feeling great. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. Every time I hear the new mayor talk, I want to give him a chance. Seems like a reasonable human being. It's not anyone can ask for is a rational human being.
Well, I mean, I think Ted Wheeler was a rational human being. It's just that you get into the weeds with all these, it's anyway.
You know what?
Portland's a tough city to make.
It's a tough one. Yeah. I don't know how many people could take that job and really be.
I'm rooting for
effective.
I'm rooting for Keith. Isn't it Keith Wilson?
Keith Wilson. I love that name.
Keith Wilson. Mayor Keith Wilson. Let's go, Keith.
Keith's a great name.
Don't get a lot of Keiths. We're moving on to the Gunners and the Archers and people like that.
Apparently, there's a styrofoam ban in Oregon that went into effect, but many business owners don't even know about it.
Yeah, but if you're like a Sonic out there, no more styrofoam cups. Which I don't see many of the styrofoam containers anymore, but
yeah, there aren't many that you do use them. So
that's the only one I can think of. Is Sonic has the styrofoam when you go get like a slushie there, but everyone else I haven't seen unless you're buying like cheap hot cocoa.
Well, I think sometimes you get the really cheap styrofoam to-go containers.
See, I don't even see those anymore.
Maybe from like the Denny's of the world.
Yeah, maybe. But no styrofoam, it's out.
But that went into effect today. A lot of business owners are mad. They're like, wait, what? Well, follow along. Business owners.
I don't care about the styrofoam. Can we do something about the paper straws?
They're horrible.
Awful.
You
got to go metal.
Listen, we're all here for the sea turtles. We want things to be okay for them, but there needs to be a better option.
Yeah, the paper straws are no good.
I just go no straw. I'm like,
I would sooner go no straw
than paper straw. Then we're just going no straw.
The metal straw is quality.
Yeah,
but
you're not going to get one from a business.
Yeah.
And I certainly am not going to carry around a metal straw. Like I'm not carrying that around in my back pocket.
You don't have your little personal straw with you at all times.
You could put it in your little fanny pack. Why not?
I suppose.
It's like a Portlandia bit.
Well, I see everyone now wearing the fanny packs, but they're doing the shoulder. It's like a fanny pack, but like shoulder style.
That's right. You're no one without one of those.
No.
All right. Well, the people didn't listen to us last night, Jace.
No.
Nope.
Got a little rowdy.
Got a little rowdy out there.
A couple people too rowdy.
We will get to that next on In the News on The Fan.
This is The Fan's Window into Sports, a view into today's top stories, brought to you by Window Nation, online at windownation.com.
Jaden Harrison bringing back the kickoff. He brought 2 back for touchdowns last year when he played for the Thundering Herd of Marshall, and he has one for Notre Dame.
Look, in a game where offense was thin at best, that was an absolute crusher for Notre Dame to take the opening kickoff.
It was a weird game. Notre Dame scored 17 points in the matter of 1 minute on either side of the half, and that was really the game.
Fumble, and then the next play was the touchdown, and then the kickoff return, and Georgia was never able to overcome it.
Fans Window into Sports brought to you by Window Nation. 50% off all window styles. This month, a bonus 10% off and 0% interest for 72 months. Go online to windownation.com or call 866-90NATION to schedule your estimate now.
Check out the Fan Merch Locker.
Here's the situation.
With a new iconic long sleeve tee.
It's over, we think.
And a must-have hoodie in your favorite college colors.
Football's football.
Football's football. Football's football.
Of course, you can still pick up the classic Fan tee and the special edition Mike Lynch Fight Against ALS shirt. Check out the Fan Merch Locker now at 1080 The Fan.
There's a lot of people. It's like Woodstock, except everybody's got their clothes on.
.com.
Auto accident? Let Leif's Auto Collision Centers handle your claim from A to Z. We pick up your vehicle, negotiate your claim, fix it to pre-loss condition, handle the billing, and drop it off. No wonder a recent survey of Oregonians voted Leif's the #1 choice for repairs. With pickup and delivery, pre-loss repairs, factory parts, loaners, and manufacturer's recommendations.
All right, nice to have you along. It is in the news for January 2nd, 2025. We were pleading with you to be careful last night. Be smart, be safe, all those things.
Or was that 2 nights ago?
Yeah, it would have been 2 nights.
Or 2 nights ago, sorry. Tuesday. Well, you were not.
No.
You did not heed our advice. No. Particularly up there in Sook's neck of the woods where it's Thunderdome.
It does tend to be Thunderdome out there in the Couve.
Police said officers made 16 arrests for impaired driving on New Year's Eve.
You know what? Honestly, I think that's actually lower than I would.
That sounds kind of low to me.
Yeah.
You know how many there were last year?
How many?
2.
Oh.
That's kind of high then.
That's high.
That's right.
It's not good.
Dramatic increase in impaired driving arrests.
Yeah, I would have thought on a night like that, I would have thought 16 would, I don't know. What am I thinking that like 50 people were getting busted for that?
Well, we had a couple of accidents, and then we had another one where a house got hit. I'm always amazed at the cars that drive into homes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that happened again.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting.
Well, and we had a couple people die. You all right over there?
I'm just reading.
Didn't 2 people? I saw in the news. I don't know if that was Portland or Vancouver, but yeah, 2 people died in a fireworks thing, and then in Hawaii.
Oh, fireworks, or are you talking about drunk driving?
I thought it was a fireworks thing.
Oh, well, how did we get onto fireworks?
Well, just kind of the not being safe thing.
Ah.
And then people in Hawaii, I think, same sort of thing. I think someone's fireworks blew up and caught a house on fire. Like 3 people died in Hawaii.
Tell you, those roundabouts get dangerous when people are drinking.
The roundabouts are absolutely dangerous, 100%. I got a buddy that lives off of Division, and so going home, I forget what that road is, but you take it like, it's where I get onto 84, and like you go down that, it's like whatever 20th, I think, and it's like 7 roundabouts. And at night when I'm driving home, it always makes me nervous because you definitely see some people, because there's a bunch of bars down there. There's a bunch of people that should not be on those roundabouts that certainly are.
Yeah, they said the first driver was arrested around 5 p.m. and the last one around 4 a.m. In all, 16 drivers arrested. That is a 700% increase from last year. And the head cheese over there at the Vancouver Police Department, Sean Donaldson, said, "I'd say for a Tuesday night, even for New Year's Eve, that's pretty remarkable." So way to go, Vancouverites.
Way to get it done out there.
Or Vancouverians, whatever they call you guys.
I got a buddy of mine that's a state patrolman, and he said he was working. He started his shift at 5 a.m. on, it would have been New Year's Day. And I was asking him, is that like, he goes, I think most people should be off the road by 5.
Yeah.
He goes, I may get a couple stragglers, but.
That's probably like nothing going on.
Yeah.
New Year's morning
New Year's morning.
5?
Yeah. So I was like, he goes, yeah, you got to be there for the other shift was going to be where that would, got to be out there doing the yeoman's work.
That's all we have time for today on In the News from your noted newsman.
The first of the new year.
Yep. Well, it's our first one, yeah. More tomorrow. The Hot 5 at 5 is coming up next. I'll give you the scores from the golf tournament, which is really all that matters. You know, the next 2 hours of our show.
We're just breaking it down?
Even in the club? We're clubbing with golf?
Yeah, we're blowing out the club tonight.
Nice.
We're breaking down the Century. Round 1.
Also, we only have an hour and a half left because Ducks basketball.
What?
It's going to cut into your golf talk. You
Sorry,
might
man,
need
you only
to
get
blow
90
out the
minutes
Hot
for that.
5 at 5 and get right to the Century.
I'm going to do a podcast after the show.
Maybe all Hot 5 things are all things from the Century.
I love that idea. 5th at the Century right now. 4th at the Century right now. 3rd. We'll get to the Hot 5 at 5 coming up next on The Fan.
Every year, as many as 19% of Americans participate
Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brian Buckley with this Sports Center update. First on the Fan on the college gridiron today. Notre Dame wins the Sugar Bowl, beating Georgia 23-10, and taking the final spot in the college football playoff semifinals with a date with the Penn State Nittany Lions in the Orange Bowl. Winner of that one will play the winner of Ohio State and Texas in the national championship game. Coming up tonight at 5 o'clock, it's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl between Ole Miss and Duke. That one over on ESPN. Lane Kiffin's Rebels favored by 17. Pro Bowl rosters were announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off the AFC roster for the first time since becoming the starter in Kansas City. Seattle cornerback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative on the NFC roster. On the hardwood, the Blazers are back in action tonight, visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Jeremy Grant and Matisse Thybulle both out. Delano Banton is questionable. Tip-off at 7:30. Lakers favored by 7.5. In the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight as number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tips off right here on the Fan at 7 with pregame coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks favored by 4.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new long-sleeve tee and hoodies in your favorite college colors. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
Good afternoon. At the tone, Pacific Daylight Time will be...
It's 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock.
One step closer to my own personal hell.
This is Primetime on Sports Radio 1080 The Fan.
We expect the best. We're not afraid to break someone. Do you hear me?
Primetime is your source for the best in local, regional, and national sports.
Go ahead and clap. Mediocrity deserves applause.
Isaac Robb.
I'm miserable. I had to get up at 10 o'clock this morning.
Jason Sakanik.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a nice little Thursday at your Sports Bros, Rob and Sook. I'm Rob. Big Sook's right over there.
Right here. With our first show of the new year.
Yep. Ryan Buckley is back from his trip to the Rose Bowl where he got wildly drunk and almost kicked out.
What an exciting time.
Actually, he almost didn't make it. He booked a PM flight instead of an AM flight.
That's right.
But Alaska took good care of him.
That's right, they did.
Whenever I'm booking a flight, I'm always panicked. I will recheck the date, the time of my flight like 17 times before clicking purchase. And I don't know why I've never messed one up, but that is always like a weird, irrational fear of mine.
I've heard of people going to the wrong airport. That's apparently a thing. Probably not here, but in places like the Bay Area or LA, you can go to the wrong airport pretty easily. But yeah, this was pretty wild, especially because of the fact when I was looking for the gate, I kept looking at my ticket. I was looking at flight number. I was looking at gate. I was looking at airline. Never once did I consider the AM PM factor.
Wow. Well, at least you caught it.
Yeah. Well, the gate agent caught it. I'm like, where is my gate? I'm supposed to be taking off in 40 minutes. She's like, that's in 12 hours and 40 minutes.
Gosh. Sorry about that. Hey, but it worked out.
It worked out.
Well, have you guys been to the? Well, you obviously have. Suk, have you been? You went. Well, did you fly? Did you drive to Canada or did you fly?
I drove.
Have you been to the new PDX yet?
I have many times.
Yeah. What a great.
Pretty nice.
Yes.
Great job they did on that.
Yeah, and they're still working on some. Yeah. It'll be better when all the construction's done because now they're working on.
Yeah, they got another part of it that hasn't been revealed yet. But my God, that is so much better.
Yes, 100%.
So much better.
It's very, very nice.
And what's fun about it? Well, actually, it's not fun. It's kind of stupid, but I can dig it. Did you see how they have the stadium seating for people waiting for when you come out of the gate?
Yes.
It's almost like you walk into an arena of people. They're sitting there waiting for you.
It's going to be one of those like Diamond Company commercials where like someone's going to propose and then all the family's going to be sitting behind newspapers in the gallery. You know, it's
Here's
sets
my
up
one
for one
thing
of those.
where I don't like this. I thought the only positive thing that came from all the new security is we no longer have to go in for the drop off or the pickup. And I don't like that we're trying to bring back if I'm picking you up, no.
Make airport pickups great again?
Yeah, I'm not into that. That's the one good thing we can say came out of the whole early 2000 thing is that, remember back in the day, if you were picking someone up or dropping them off, a lot of times you had to park, walk with them to the gate, or be there when they got off the plane. We do not need to go backwards on that. The curbside pickup drop-off is the place to be.
Why was that a thing?
I don't know.
Did we just do that because it was just easier?
I think it wasn't easier. I think it was considered rude to just take someone to the airport and then be get the hell out of the car.
I think at the time it was easier because you didn't have to go through security or anything. You could just go right to the gate.
That's true.
So you could just park and go to the gate. Now you can't even get to the gate.
No.
They make you sit and wait until you come out of the
And so now
gate
you want
area.
me, even though I can't get to the gate, you want me to sit in the stadium seating and welcome people home? I say nay.
Well, I think that the only time, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, the only time it's acceptable to get to park and get out of the car when someone is coming to visit is when it's a big deal. Like,
No, I'm saying one thing and one thing only. Returning from war.
Well, that's what I mean. Like a big deal. That's what I'm
it.
saying. Like, there's a lot of things that are big deals.
Yeah.
And you have the kids with the sign, and oh my God, there's gonna be tears and hugs.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, like Sook's daughter's in Korea now, and so maybe she doesn't come back to the U.S. for a long time, and maybe you guys are like, hey, when she does, we'll have a big old welcoming party for her.
It had been 2 years since I had seen my daughter, and I did pick her up at the Vancouver airport. We drove to Canada, and then she flew. And I picked her up on Christmas morning. Guess who wasn't waiting there? No. I'll see you at the curb. Unless you are a war hero coming home, I am not entering that airport. I will see you at the curb.
I think that there are some other instances where it's okay. Well, like I said, just it's a big deal. Maybe it's a long lost relative, or maybe I think maybe a kid coming home from college, or trying to think of other
coming home from college. That's not pickup worthy.
Special occasions, I don't know. When they, it's one of those things you can't really identify, but when you see it.
I don't like it.
And I think that's okay. But when we were getting off our flight, we went to San Diego and came back. There were a ton of people sitting in those seats waiting for people to come off the
and that's what I'm saying. I don't like that we're now trying to normalize that again. Not in my world.
I waved to them all.
Hey, what's going on?
They waved back.
Yeah.
They were like, welcome home.
Signs and balloons. Hey.
Well, anyway, the new airport is really nice.
Yes, it is.
They did a great job and are still doing a great job on that. Coming up in the club tonight, a significant scientific discovery in England. I don't know if you saw this, but it's big. Bigly.
I don't know if I have seen this or not.
Well, I think you would know if you had.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you say that, and then I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then when you say it, I'm like, oh, yeah. I just may not consider that to be huge.
Big deal.
Big deal. Pretty good.
Big. So that'll be in the club. We have a short club tonight because the Ducks are playing Illinois. Big game.
Yeah.
Out there at Matthew Knight. At any rate, this hour, we'll get back into Oregon's loss, what's next for the Ducks, and our college football clover leaf. Anyone?
Luck of the Irish?
Right now, the Hot 5 at 5.
Hot topics, hot opinions.
Oh, golly, I'm hot today.
And hot air. It's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
That's hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 on Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
No, I mean it. That's very hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you on The Fan by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Discover Victor Rico's new savory menu items. Order in store, online, or get it delivered straight to your door at victorricos.com.
I'm sorry. I want to run.
Number 5. Number 5.
Well, real sport has finally begun. Enough of this football crap.
Talking about the big hockey game going on right now?
Golf season is underway. PGA Tour is back. They are at the Century on Maui, the plantation course, where it's usually a birdie fest. I think somebody won it last year at like 76 under or something.
That does seem like a lot.
It was like 30-something, but still, they throw a lot of birdies up there. Tom Hoagie.
Hot Tom Hoagie talk.
Your leader after round one.
Who knew you needed that?
Well, actually, they're still playing, but he's 9 under. Will Zalatoris, your boy, is back, 8 under.
I thought Zalatoris was live.
Oh, God, no. No.
Who am I thinking of?
I don't know. Cameron Young, 7 under.
I might be thinking of Cam Smith.
Colin Morikawa, 7 under.
Yes, Cam Smith is slight, blonde, and live.
Yeah.
He went to live after winning the British.
Yeah.
Zally, he hasn't even won a major. Little bitch.
Loser.
But get excited, golf's back.
By the way, I just went to
Number
ESPN
4.
and they have to have it under more sports. I can't even find golf on more sports.
No, ESPN doesn't know what it's doing. You got to go to the PGA Tour app.
It's sandwiched somewhere between Little League World Series, F1, and NLL.
National Lacrosse League? Nice.
Duck Hoops tonight on the Fan, 6:30. Big one. Number 9, Oregon hosting number 22, Illinois.
That's tasty little
Or is it
Tastes a little good.
Illinois?
The Fighting Illini?
I think it's the Illini.
Oh, that's what that is. Are they still allowed to use the Fighting Illini?
Chief Illiniwek and all that?
Or is it just a Illini now?
I don't know if they're fighting.
We had that thing for a while where the fighting thing got to be problematic.
The Illini already have ranked wins over Arkansas and Wisconsin. The Ducks, top 25 nationally in three-point defense. The game, right here on the Fan, baby.
Oregon favored by 4.5. In case you were wondering.
Could be a good game.
Number 3.
Who's Oregon's one loss to?
Interesting matchup.
UCLA on a banked-in 3 at the buzzer.
Pistons, middle of the pack in the East. They lose Jaden Ivey for the season now. He has a broken fib.
He had a resurgent year, though. He was having a big year for them, and middle of the pack, that's good for Detroit. And he got hurt.
That's why I said that, because I think a lot of people might think that they're still at the bottom of the East. They're not.
No, they were this was a real bummer. I was like Detroit fans finally had, after years and years of just being the worst team, it felt like maybe they had something going, and then I don't know if it was a dirty play, but Cole Anthony dove for a loose ball, a little reckless, and rolled up into him and broke his leg.
Look at you watching the NBA, watching hot Pistons basketball. Good grief. The Blazers visiting the Lakers tonight. Jeremy Grant remains out. Meanwhile, Chauncey Billups now the odds-on favorite as next coach turfed.
Does it really matter? Does it really matter? They are so far off now. But I love that they'll win a game or two.
But yet the Pistons are on your radar?
Well, no, I just was watching that because obviously the injury. But the Blazers will win like 1 or 2 games, and Scoot has like a decent game, and people are like, oh my God, the corner's turned. Like, give it a game and you'll be right back to not caring.
Hey, quick hot stove update. We've got 2 favorites who have emerged for third baseman Alex Bregman in free agency. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Detroit Tigers.
The Tigers is a bit of an interesting one. Toronto always seems to want to throw their hat into this, but the LT Grays, huh?
Yeah, the Tigers. Also, I don't know if you saw, but Pete Alonso, you see the surprise team in the Pete Alonso sweepstakes?
Well, and they're saying that Pete may not sign for a while because they're asking for a lot of money and the first base market is dried up. So who has emerged here?
Your Los Angeles Angels.
Really?
Yeah. Which would be weird.
Well, I mean, we've seen this happen with Boris clients where Pete Alonso's good, he's not great, and Boris gets in there and he wants big money, and I'm not certain it's coming anywhere. I'm kind of hoping the Mets can get him on a reasonable contract because there's no other option.
What's reasonable for a guy like that?
Well, it certainly isn't what they're asking for, but you get him somewhere in the mid-20s. I think you take that if you're the Mets.
We had the final college football playoff quarterfinal go down today, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, and Notre Dame played stout defense. They scored 17 points in a 54-second span, and they beat Georgia 23-10. The Irish are the early 1.5-point favorites in their semifinal matchup with Penn State.
So we can officially, all conference champions are gone. All 4 of the teams with byes, obviously, are gone. And so now we can make sweeping conclusions, that the playoff is broken. And
back to the 4-team format.
Radical changes. I'd also like to point out that in this format here, the 2 favorites, Notre Dame and Ohio State, wouldn't even be in the old format. So, bitch all you want. This has been a tremendous success.
Well, I don't know who's. Well, I do know who's bitching.
A lot of people are bitching.
But I mean, it's like they'll fix it. Yeah. This was great. It was great for the regular season, and it's great now.
Yeah.
So now we have 3 more college football games left. Well, that's not true. There's a couple bowl games. As a matter of fact, Ole Miss and Duke are playing right now.
The Tax Slayer Gator Bowl going on right now is 0-0 just underway.
Yeah. And then here's the other weird thing is that Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State, Texas are both during the week next week.
I know. It's so odd.
They are not on a Saturday.
No, it's on the 10th, right?
Well, no.
The 9th and 10th.
Yeah. So Notre Dame, Penn State will be Thursday, 1 week from today.
That's the Capital One Orange Bowl.
And then Friday, Ohio State plays Texas, and both of those games will be going on during our stupid show.
That's what, 4:30 kicks on both of those?
Which is absurd.
It is so strange. And then the 20th they're still doing it on the Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday, January 20th.
Yeah.
That's the final.
And that is, where is the championship this year?
I thought
Atlanta.
Dallas.
Championships.
Oh, no, Atlanta.
Semifinals
right.
are Dallas and
Atlanta.
Miami.
Well, look, it's a little funky that we've got the 5, 8, 6, and 7 seed, but Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Ohio State. I don't think
good Final Four.
It's a good Final Four.
Good little Final Four.
Yeah,
and they're both good matchups.
Yes,
I think if it were the other way around, maybe I don't know. Like if it were Ohio State, Penn State, and
I'm pulling. If I don't. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Penn State, Ohio State again, or like I need Ohio State and Notre Dame. Give me that. Give me Ohio State. Give me Notre Dame, and let's do this.
Okay. Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Let's recap yesterday's bloodbath in L.A.
Yeah,
coming up next.
Didn't go well.
The Hot 5 at 5 brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food, a hit with the whole family. Order in-store, online, or delivered to your door at victorricos.com. When you think of flavor, think of Victor Rico's. We'll be right back on 1080 The Fan.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
Our love is lifting you higher today. At least that's what we want.
I think Duck fans definitely need a lift.
A hug?
Yeah, a hug.
A sports hug.
Maybe some hand stuff. They need something. It's not
some
good.
hand stuff.
It's not good right now.
God, man.
What?
Yeah, that was
What,
rough.
that wouldn't put you in a better mood? Sorry. It's all I'm offering.
I mean, temporarily. I just, it was rough. It was over. Like the first play.
Yeah.
The first damn play, you're like, oh boy.
When there's like one player catching the ball with no one within
Yes.
20 yards of him.
Yes. You're like, oh no.
Well, maybe they just found a hole on that one play and the rest won't be like this. No,
I
the
think
rest were
idea
pretty
was
much like that.
You knew Ohio State was going to come out and get aggressive. They weren't going to run a conservative game plan. And, they come out in the first drive, the 3 plays. 2 of them were really nice scheme drops, right? Where you got G. Scott on the tight end and then Smith on the little fake jet action sweep and, got him in open space and thanks for coming. That dude's just a freak. So I think the idea was, and even Oregon probably said, okay, they got us with some scripted plays. We knew they were going to have some wrinkles. We got some wrinkles too. No worry. We're going to settle down and we'll be in this thing. Well, you never settled down. You just didn't. And so not only was it a schematic thing that they beat you, by being aggressive offensively. Their defensive schemes had Dylan Gabriel confused. And then up front, you just were dominated on both sides of the ball. I mean, it was just a thorough ass kicking. There's really nothing you can point to that Oregon did well in that game.
Yeah, that's what I think sucks about it is that you thought maybe those teams were pretty even.
Yeah.
And you knew you'd get their best shot. You know, they clearly had some momentum and they had the revenge factor, but so you knew they'd be good. Like it's like, all right, let's lace them up. Let's go. I mean, we beat you once. This is a good team, but we're the only ones that went undefeated, right?
Yep.
So you thought, okay, well, we know they're going to bring it. Let's see what happens.
But we'll at least be up for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way they handled it was like olden days Ducks, like where they were just thoroughly outmanned and outclassed. And that was surprising. That was the most surprising.
Well, we've talked a lot, and Suk mentioned this when he went to the first Ohio State game, that, like, you guys have been to games in the past, and you looked at both rosters on the field level, and, like, Oregon doesn't have the size and the guys, and we thought that had changed. And when they went out and played yesterday, it didn't look like it had changed. It looked like they were out physicaled out everything.
Is it has changed. I'm telling you.
But why does it look like that?
No, I know it has changed, but it just didn't look like it yesterday.
That game, you ran into a buzzsaw. But again, you proved it. You've seen it. You've played toe-to-toe with Ohio State twice over the last handful of years. So if those two teams played 10 times, the result is not 41-21.
I agree with that, but I just think that's the most alarming part of this.
Yeah.
Is not that they lost, it's that they were completely whipped.
But I guess
on both lines.
I guess all I'm saying is, to a man, those rosters aren't that much. There's not much separating that. Like when you look through Oregon's D-line, Ohio State's D-line, when you look at their O-line, our O-line, the running backs was a huge, that's where I'll say there's a discrepancy, but Oregon has a better quarterback. At least we thought. We thought, not in that particular game.
Will Howard played great.
Will Howard did play great.
He played really well both times he played him, except for that slide play.
But we're gonna try to come up with this narrative that Ohio State is just physically so much better than Oregon, and it's just not true. In this game, it was true.
I don't think anyone's saying that. I think all we're saying is, it's just. I agree with what you're saying. I think most people know where Oregon is at.
Yeah.
Obviously, they beat Ohio State once. They're not,
yes.
But I think it's just the idea that if you're that close to them and things have changed, how does it look like that? Yeah. How do you get so dominated on both lines of scrimmage like that? I mean, it was alarming. No one's drawing any grand conclusions from that, or at least you shouldn't be. It's just that was really shocking.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think many people thought a Dan Lanning team that went undefeated this season, already beat this team once, had 24 days to get ready, would look like that and get
fall
dominated.
behind by 34.
Dude, they got smoked.
I'm not shocked that Ohio State obviously had a good offensive output. I'm shocked that there was no resistance from the Oregon defense, but we saw it in the first game. I'm just shocked that the Oregon offense, which all year had looked as good as anyone and was the number one offense in the country, I'm surprised that that an offense that good looked completely inept. And not just inept, but Galloway kind of pointed this out. Gabriel looked lost. And I'll give credit to Ohio State. Dude, someone forgot to tell the Ohio State defensive line that this is a really good Oregon D-line, because without bringing a ton of pressure, they whooped their ass up front. I thought Ohio State did a great job of disguising coverages. I don't think Oregon did anything at all to make Ohio State bring a safety down into the box. In fact, I thought Ohio State played a lot of the game in basically a 4-2 look where they were running 3 safeties out there, and that freed up Downs to basically be a rover and do whatever he wanted, but still play a 2-high look. Oregon never got behind the Ohio State secondary. Ohio State learned their lesson from that first first Oregon game, and we knew that they would throw adjustments and made huge adjustments on their whole defensive scheme after that game. I just thought Oregon would have a counterpunch, and they had nothing. They completely laid an egg, and I brought it up. When you go back and watch that game, look, they were losing that game no matter what. But when you go back and watch that, there were 4 or 5 plays, especially in that first half, that were 50-50 balls. We had the one where Gabriel threw it, and he had Tez Johnson on a touchdown. It hit the Ohio State guy in the helmet. If that's just 2 yards out in front, that's a touchdown. There were 2 plays on third downs where the Ohio State guy, the DB, reaches out and makes a great play tipping the ball away. Again, if that ball comes out half a click sooner, those are different. Like, all those 50-50 plays that you had all went Ohio State's way, and then the thing starts snowballing, and before you know it, you're playing from behind. You can't run the ball. Now Ohio State can pin their ears back, and the damn bursts. Ohio State clearly better than Oregon in spades. But what I don't want people to take is that somehow that Oregon team is a farce. That's the best team in college football when fully healthy, Ohio State. We've seen it. We heard all year long that people were saying, hey, if Ohio State ever puts it together, this is the team. Well, you just saw it the last 2 weeks. And you're not that good. And when Ohio State plays like that, you're not beating them. But I think you have to be careful with this narrative that Oregon was somehow a paper tiger, or that I still think Oregon would have beat or could have beat anyone in this tournament, not name Ohio State. And I think if Ohio State and Oregon played 10 times, maybe that's the result once or twice. But that is not indicative of where those two programs are at. But on that particular day, that scheme, you picked a really bad day to show up and not play very well when you were playing a fully operational Death Star in Ohio State. And they had a player in Jeremiah Smith who just, there was a play where he was in triple coverage and it didn't matter. He still went up and high pointed the ball. Bottom line is your DBs were 5'9", and that guy is 6'3" and the best receiver in college football at 19 years old.
Just got a bad draw.
Yeah, bad draw.
Got a bad draw, man. That team is cooking right now. They're the first team, Ohio State, to beat 3 top 10 teams by 20 or more in the same season since Nebraska in 1995. Yeah. Did you know that about Ohio State?
I did not, but that is pretty damn good.
So that's Tennessee, Indiana, and Oregon.
And I don't know if Indiana should be included in that, but Tennessee and Oregon were both damn good teams.
Well, they were top 10 team.
They were top 10 teams.
So, I mean,
Ohio State made Tennessee and Oregon look like the little sister Mary of the poor Tallahassee JUCO Raiders, and it was ugly. And
Pac-12 teams, former Pac-12, you know what their bowl record is?
What?
1-5.
And see, again, that stinks because, again, it goes back to the draw. And please don't make excuses about the draw. God, you sound pathetic when people start crying about that.
So Oregon lost, Arizona State lost. Although that's a little misleading because it was just, I mean, they had buys.
They had buys.
Washington lost. Washington State lost. Colorado got smoked.
Yeah.
The only team that won was USC. And I'm not really even sure how they did that.
Yeah.
But they won.
If
beat Texas A&M.
If you would have put, and it's hindsight being 2020, because now we've seen Oregon play and we've seen the rest of the teams play. Is there a team that if you had to line up next week, even after watching that Ohio State game, that you would say worries you for Oregon?
I think
you got to.
I think Notre Dame. I feel like Oregon and Notre Dame would be a dogfight.
Agreed.
I feel like Texas would be tough, but I just think, again, as we've talked about a million times, I just don't trust Sark or Ewers. I think Oregon could beat Texas, although that team's really talented. Penn State, you've already seen it once.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like an Ohio State situation where if you played them again, you'd see something completely different. So, yeah, I think maybe well, I mean, when I was talking back and forth with a friend about this during the game, that was the final.
Yeah.
It was just a weird it was just a weird bracket. It's the first year they've done the 12-teamer, and it got screwy, and they got a bad draw. Yep. It's just
you had to go through them eventually, and
exactly.
You know.
And I think the way that they lost might make you think that they weren't going to win that tournament anyway. So that might make you feel a little better.
Well, I will say you called this going into that game. You know, we all had the question of if there was one Achilles heel for this Oregon team, and you wanted to nitpick the number one team in the country, it would be that 3 times they had played real offenses, and all 3 of those offenses, and by the way, they were all in the playoff, Ohio State, Boise State, Penn State, they all scored 30 points and kind of had their way with you. And so there was this idea of, God, is this defense really a good defense, or is it more of it's a solid defense that, you know, hasn't really been tested a ton other than those 3 teams? And unfortunately, I think what we saw was that defense was indeed probably not good enough to win a national championship.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a championship level defense, but I do think they were a championship level team.
Yes.
It was just a bad matchup because that's the one team, Ohio State, that defensively could do that to your offense. I don't think there's another defense in this tournament that could do what Ohio State did to Oregon's offense, because Oregon's defense is not, as we've seen, they're going to give up 30 against elite teams, okay? Yeah. So if you play Texas, Texas is probably going to score 30. The question is what does your offense do against Texas's defense? Yeah. I'm not sure Texas's defense, particularly the way they shoot themselves in the foot and they have a bunch of penalties, I'm not sure that they beat Oregon in that way. Ohio State was the one team, especially after having seen Oregon's offense already once and gotten burned by it. They were the one team that had the talent and the staff. Jim Knowles is really well respected. That had the combination of the offense to beat your defense, which I think a lot of teams in this tournament could. But they also had the defense that could really slow down your offense. I mean, they sacked Dalen Gabriel 8 times.
And compared to 0 in the
zero,
first game.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'll
what other team could do that?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, but Notre Dame doesn't have an offense that would have tested.
But Riley Mills is out, and I know that they did that to Georgia today. But dude, Georgia's on a backup. Their offense sucked.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think there's one team that could do to Oregon what happened to Oregon, and it was the one team that they happened to run into in the quarterfinals.
Exactly. Whether you play them now or you played them down the road, you felt like that was, if you were going to run into that version, and if that's the version that everyone else sees, Ohio State's winning this whole thing, and they're probably winning it going away. And you got shillelagh'd a little bit. Unfortunately, you beat him the one game that it didn't really matter, and you lost to him in the one that did. But it's the fashion that it went down, and I give credit. I just thought from a schematics point, Ohio State really did a nice job.
Chuck Kelly
not letting the things that fooled you in the first game and burn you. Not letting it beat you again. And maybe the best thing that happened to them was losing to Oregon and losing to Michigan, because I think when they lost to Oregon, they went back to the drawing board and were like, we cannot rely on talent alone on defense, and they made adjustments. And after the Michigan game, they said, we cannot be stagnant and rely on just, our run game and playing defense, and they opened it up with Will Howard, and look at what happened the last 2 games. So Ohio State learned from their mistakes, and now you're getting the best version of them, and the best version of them is the best team in the country, and Oregon just picked a bad day to play a poor game. Like, I haven't seen their O-line get drilled like that all year since the Boise State and Idaho games when you played poorly. And, I mean, All-American tackles getting beat one-on-one, and I'm just not used to seeing that all year. I mean, they could not run the ball. I think you take the quarterback stuff out of it, I think they ran the ball for like 24 yards. I mean, you're just not beating anyone like that. And then you throw in the fact that no Evan Stewart, who killed him in the first game, Tez Johnson was beat up, and Jordan James went out. I mean, that thing was over, honestly, before it started. I mean, it was 8 minutes into the game, and you're like, well, this is it.
All right, well, we'll get to a couple texts, and then we'll talk about what's next for Oregon when we return. But first, Buck with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Ryan Buckley with this SportsCenter update. First on the Fan, on the college gridiron today, Notre Dame wins the Sugar Bowl. They beat Georgia 23-10 the final. That sets up a semifinal matchup with Penn State in the Orange Bowl. The Penn State-Notre Dame winner will play the winner of Texas and Ohio State in the national championship game. Right now over on ESPN, number 14, Ole Miss taking on Duke in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Ole Miss with a 7-0 lead about 6 minutes into the first quarter. Pro Bowl rosters announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off of the AFC roster for the first time since becoming the starter in Kansas City. Seattle cornerback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative, on the NFC roster. On the hardwood, the Blazers are back in action tonight, visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle are both out. Delano Banton is questionable. Tip-off is at 7:30. The Lakers are favored by 7.5. And in the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight is number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tipping right here on the Fan at 7 o'clock with pregame coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it over on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks are favored in that one by 4.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the Fan in your
The thing about that loss for Oregon, and I was thinking about this with Texas too, as they were getting ready to gack it away against Arizona State, is like, and Texas may be a little different story because they're Texas.
Yeah.
But, you wonder how many of these teams you can build, right? It's like you feel like Oregon has everything it takes to win a championship. They've shown that because they've gone undefeated past every test to this point, right? So you look at this team and you go,
3 playoff teams they beat.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team and you go, this team can win it. This was not the old Oregon where it'd be like, man, when they meet the real big boys up front, it's going to be trouble, right? So you start to think, well, if they don't win it with Dylan, and Dylan Gabriel's pretty special.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't often have back-to-back quarterbacks like Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, right? Like, who's going to be their quarterback next year? Have they even?
Well, I mean,
have they gotten anybody in the transfer portal?
No one in the portal yet. So we're assuming Dante Moore, but I mean,
yeah. See, you ain't winning a title with Dante Moore yet. I mean, maybe down the road, but you know what I'm saying? Like this team was special.
It felt like you had the opportunity,
and I felt like this with Texas. It's like I'm looking at Sark, going, dude. First of all, I don't know if he ever wins one just because he's Sark. But he's got Quinn Ewers, and I know Quinn Ewers has been shaky, but Quinn Ewers is a hell of a talented player. And by the way, he pulled it out of the fire for his team with 2 huge plays in a row to turn that game on a dime. They were dead.
It looked like they were done. 4th
and
Ewers 13.
And he made those plays. So when you have Ewers and you have all the NFL talent that Texas does, you just wonder, like, does Sark have to win it right here? And I go back to Oregon, and I think, man, I don't know how much better you can build a team. Especially at Oregon, So it's frustrating in that way. It's like, we know Lanning's good. We know they've got something that they've never had before even. They've taken this to an even another level. But yet they didn't get over the hump. As a matter of fact, got their ass kicked. So it's like, well, now what?
Yeah. Well, I said this at the beginning. I tried to put a more of a positive spin on this because I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's a wasted season, and I disagree with that. I think Landon's been here 3 years, and I think you've built on something all 3 years.
But does that keep going north is what I'm saying? It's like
I think greener days and better days, greener pastures, better days, whatever you want to call it, are ahead. I think Landing is building something very sustainable here. Obviously, the recruiting classes, they have a great NIL budget. It's still a very cool, sexy school. I think they're going to continue to be a good program. Will they win a national title? That's the one. I get that that's the last thing you need in order to kind of legitimize your program. But again, go back and look at how many teams win national championships. It's really hard. Jim Harbaugh, how many years was Jim Harbaugh at Michigan before he won a national title?
I know it's hard, but that's the goal.
That is the goal.
That's where and that's what's frustrating is that they were at that level this year.
I thought this was the team most capable of winning a national championship. And maybe if you didn't have to play Ohio State, maybe you would win one. But to your point, let's say next year they take a step back and then there's going to be the sky is crumbling. We want to believe that there's like this steady arc, like when you're mountain climbing, and it's not. I think there's a lot of peaks and valleys. And next year is going to be a very interesting year because Oregon has dominated in the transfer portal. In fact, when you look at the last couple of years with Lanning, the majority of their big-time players have all been transfer portal kids. And we do know that, in a small little sample, the core of your team does need to come from homegrown, and then you supplement it with the portal. And Lanning has done a phenomenal job of hitting home runs in the transfer portal. And next year they lose a lot. And I know they've done a nice job in the portal, but these next year or two need to be where the homegrown kids with these top 10 recruiting classes really start to blossom. Because I would make the argument that the next year for Oregon is going to be a big, what do we do? Because think about this. Holden gone, Stewart gone, Tej Johnson gone, 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen, including your best 2, gone.
Ferguson gone at tight end.
Ferguson gone. Your Heisman Trophy finalist quarterback gone. Whittington gone. Birch gone. Caldwell gone. Harmon gone.
Maybe James gone if he thinks it's his best shot at the NFL.
Possible. Bossa gone. Your entire secondary gone.
Well, all of that is my point.
Yes. It's
in that in today's college football, and Oregon's set up nicely because they have the NIL. They can compete. They're amongst, what are they, top 3 in NIL?
Yes.
So they're going to be right there. It's just, it seems like in college football nowadays, you just it's a year-to-year build, right? It's like, okay, well, that one didn't win it. Let's go see if we can build one for next year. I get what you're saying about the recruiting classes, but ultimately, it does come down to a few key players.
Yes.
Whether you home grow those or you get those in the portal, those are the guys.
Yeah.
And Oregon didn't have enough of those this year. And you just mentioned all the ones we thought were there. Freaking 85% of them are gone.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of scary. And we know the coach is good. We know they're set up with NIL. They're not going away. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. I just wonder if we look back in 5-10 years and go, boy, that one team that went undefeated was maybe their best chance, and they didn't get over the hump.
I will say that I think next year they may take a little bit of a step backwards, but they should still make the playoff. I mean, the way Oregon recruits, the budget, and now being one of the 12 teams, the expectation for Oregon should be every year to make the playoff.
And then who knows? Maybe you got a good path.
Yeah, and maybe you do have a good path. I just think next year, there may be some growing pains. But much like Ohio State lost 2 games this year, didn't win the conference, and they got in, and look what happened, right? You don't always have to be the number 1 team in the country. In fact, not a single one of the top 4 seeds is left standing. So as we go through next year, and there is some growing pains, and I would assume there would be. If Dante Moore is your quarterback, there's going to be some growing pains. A new offensive line, new weapons, a whole new defense. There's going to be some stumbles along the road. And if you lose a game or two, it doesn't mean that you can't ultimately get where you want to get. But just like anything else, Landing is going to have some years, like every other program, where you kind of think this was a better opportunity. And I think you're right. That
all the pieces were in place.
All the pieces were in place.
I mean, how do you get?
This was a real opportunity.
I'm trying to think of what was missing. I guess maybe. I mean, but on paper, their defense. I mean, I know their defense wasn't, obviously cost them, but on paper, it's damn good. We've seen it play great.
I would say if you had to say what was missing, you probably didn't have the one player on offense, one player on defense that really tilted the field. And when you look at Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith and then Caleb Downs, in this game, going to that 4-2 with the 3 safety look, Caleb Downs ruined Oregon's passing game. Yeah. And he's arguably the best safety in football, the transfer from Alabama. And then Jeremiah Smith was a gravitational force that no one could do anything with.
So Kobe Savage wasn't it.
He was not.
And that was a transfer guy.
He was transfer guy.
And everybody loved that move, getting him in there.
And like Muhammad's a good corner, but he's not a dominant guy. And then as good as Tez Johnson, and we didn't get to see Evan Stewart, they just weren't Jeremiah Smith.
Smith they just recruited, right?
Yeah.
Obviously he's a freshman.
He's a freshman. In Miami, he was a Florida I guess he
kid.
Was close going to Miami, and Ohio State got him at the end.
Gee, I wonder how they got him.
I wonder.
But the Ducks do think and hope that they've got this next Jeremiah Smith and Decorian Moore, who's the number 1 player in the country coming in.
And so if you ask what this team lacked, I would say it was that. You lacked a absolute game wrecker because you look on the defensive side of the ball, Birch was really good, and Harmon was really good, and Uyunglele was really good. They weren't game changers. And if you look at most national championship teams, Alabama, Clemson, and Dylan Gabriel's really good too. But I don't think Dylan Gabriel was as good as Bo Nix. Dylan Gabriel's a great college quarterback, but he wasn't Deshaun Watson, right? He wasn't one of those, truly, he wasn't Vince Young. He wasn't Cam Newton. And I would say that's the one thing, is you need to get the gravitational pull player on offense or defense. Remember when they played Auburn, and they really neutralized Cam Newton, but they didn't neutralize, Nick Farley? Fairley. He was a guy that was just like, well, there's nothing we can do, or Ezekiel Elliott. And they need that one piece. And when you recruit at the level that they're getting right now with 5-star kids, that's where those kids come from. And hopefully this group coming up develops 1 or 2 of those guys, as you mentioned, the young receiver that they think could be that.
Yeah, Decorian Moore, who just won the MVP of the All-American game.
Yeah.
Hey, I have faith in him. I do. I think they've got...
I think brighter days are ahead.
I think the program's cooking. I just feel like that was a real opportunity.
Great chance with a great roster.
It was all teed up.
Yep. Yeah. And I do think next year, and it's so early, I think next year, regular season, I think there's going to be some dips where people are going to be pissy and moany. I just think it's a lot to ask to lose the production and starts that they're going to lose. And again, look at those names that I just read off on offense and defense, including, if it really is Dante Moore, you're turning to a quarterback with almost no experience. And when we did see him at UCLA, let's be honest, it wasn't game-changing. So unless they go out and find another Dylan Gabriel, Bo Nix in the portal, you're going to get some growing pains at quarterback with an all new O-line, all new receivers, and like with Sadiq, the tight end, who showed flashes, but he's never done it in any sort of consistency. There may be some growing pains next year, but maybe that group with the young guys, maybe it grows into something that isn't 13-0 and isn't number one team in the country good, but by the end of the year, maybe they have a better high end than this team here. But this will be viewed as a missed opportunity.
That was rough.
It was rough.
College football cloverleaf coming up next on The Fan.
It's time for a Ducks Report, the inside story on Oregon athletics, brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Yeah, I think that's an excuse. I thought our guys prepared well going in. Obviously, they had a better plan than us, but that's an excuse. That's an opportunity that we had to recharge. I thought our guys did practice well. I tell you, if that wasn't the case, I thought they had great focus. I just don't think our plan was good enough, and I think they had a great plan to attack us. So credit to those guys.
Brutally honest, Dan Lanning.
They got pantsed.
Yeah,
So,
and he knows it.
Yeah.
He usually is like, well, we got a lot to clean up. It's, we got to work on this. We got to work on that. He was like, this time he's like, nope, that team's damn good, and they kicked our ass.
Sometimes it happens, and that stinks. So it's a crappy way to end what was an otherwise amazing season.
Mods PDX, the future of building is here.
The Fan is live on YouTube, Twitch, and now Window Nation brings you the window into the Fan. On-demand YouTube video shorts with your favorite fan shows and hosts. The window into the Fan is brought to you by Window Nation. Call 866-98-NATION or visit windownation.com to schedule your free in-home estimate. Watch Window Nation's Window into the Fan every day on YouTube with 1080. Peekaboo! The Fan.
If you're considering new construction and want it done right and fast by a team that's focused on innovation, collaboration, and creativity, you want Mods PDX. At Mods PDX, we craft beautiful, sustainable, energy-efficient buildings of the highest quality. Our modular approach means your project can
We'll get more into Oregon when we post-mortem with Joey Harrington tomorrow. Wonder what he's going to say.
I don't know. Be interested because he usually has a pretty rational take on all this. Be interested to see what he thinks.
What if he's sky is falling guy?
It's over. It's over. Something tells me that won't be the case.
Joey comes on and says, "Fire Lanning."
Well, and there's people like,
Tosh Lapoy's getting a lot of heat today.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a.
When you give up 41, your DC is going to get some heat.
Yes. And basically, when you've given up 30 against the only offenses that are worth a damn that you've played, it's a fair question.
People pointing out, too, that when Oregon has rematches, those opponents frequently score even more points than they did the first time.
Is that right?
With them against Washington as well.
I would also like to point out that this year, Ohio State fans were calling for the firing of both of their coordinators at some point. And
they'll probably build them statues if they finish this thing off.
Yeah, so, it's easy to... No one was complaining about Oregon's coordinators until that game. No one was complaining the first time they played Ohio State.
Well, we also have this narrative out there. And, look, I know that you hate this, but I've got to say it again. I think the layoff for the bye teams did matter.
All 4 of them are gone.
And all 4 of them fell down by double digits in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think, especially as, like, looking at the Oregon game, just kind of the way they just weren't fast off the ball. Like, just everything, it just looked bogged down early. All 4 of them looked like that. But I think there's this thing with Lanning now because the Idaho game, they were not good. The Georgia game, the first year, they were not good.
Yeah.
It's this idea that long layoffs, long times to prepare. In the Lanning era, the team has not been good.
No. I mean, it's...
In any of those games. I'm trying to think of a game where they had a long layoff and were.
I mean, that would have been the only long layoffs that they've had is the first game of the year and then this. I mean, the bowl games, which does it really matter? I mean, when you beat Liberty or whatever after the
Well, they
long
smoked
layoff.
Liberty.
Yeah,
and didn't they beat North Carolina?
Yeah, they beat North Carolina. So they've won the 2 bowl games, but again, people are going to point out those bowl games don't matter. And, this idea that the layoff is like this death sentence. Well, guess what? You're still going to try to get a layoff because you're still going to try to win the conference. You're still going to try to be the best team you can. No one's going to get to the end of the year and be like, "Hey guys, let's take a couple losses."
No, of course not. It's just how you handle the layoff.
Sure.
I think is the interesting thing. And of course, Lanning will never, ever. Probably talk about this publicly.
Yeah.
But if they get a bye next year,
they'll handle it differently.
He's going to change things up.
He probably already has a new plan for that.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about.
Maybe you need to do more live bullets. Maybe you need to say, hey, even if we sacrifice some injuries, we got to go live. We actually have to tackle.
I think that's right. I think it's probably, I'm guessing, just a guess, it's got to be more intense.
Sure.
And it's got to be more intense leading up to the game, the week of the game.
Because we can sit here and say that obviously the layoff hurt and that the teams that went through got a nice pull, right? So you got to play like for Penn State, right? They got Boise State, which ended up being a good game, but they pulled away. Or SMU, right? Whatever, because that would have been their first game. It wasn't Boise State, it was SMU. But what happens? What happens next year when you have that and you're the 5 seed or you're the 6 seed, and instead of getting SMU, you get Ohio State or you get Alabama? This year, the draw ended up being where it ended up being favorable for those teams. But the idea after 1 year that it's always going to be beneficial to you to play an extra game, not unless that extra team happens to be like an absolute juggernaut like Ohio State that's staring you in the face. Like, it's just... I just don't like that we're taking 1 year of results and we're trying to make sweeping statements about what the college football playoff is going to be down the road. And that's just silly because 1, they're probably going to tweak it. And 2, there's just no way of predicting the draw. I mean, right now it appears that the best team in college football that looks unstoppable lost 2 games, including one to a team that has no offense whatsoever and was sitting there. It could have been anywhere from the 5 to the 7 seed.
I mean,
didn't even make their conference championship.
Yes.
All that's true. It's just that I think that it's just a weird format when you have a team that sits and doesn't play for 24 days.
It is a long time.
That is so long.
But, we used to do this with national title games when it was the one, when you just had the 2 teams.
It'd be like
you
a
have
30-day
to wait
layoff.
30 days.
You had to wait 30 days.
But all of that's dumb, too. So they've switched that. So
but at least both teams were waiting the same period of time with those.
Exactly. It's just the idea that this tournament, and again, you're right, they're gonna fix all this. They're gonna get it right, hopefully, soon. But this whole thing can be wrapped up by yesterday. The whole tournament.
Yeah.
And we still have 2 weeks to go. The 20th is the last game?
20th is the last game.
Yeah, we still have 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
It just, NFL, it's like, yes, you get a bye and other teams have to play, but it's week, done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
It would be
College
nice.
the same way. And I know that there's finals. And I know that there's
the finals.
the transfer portal. I get all that, but come on, man. You telling me you can't just get this thing going earlier?
I just would like to point out that anyone bitching and moaning about this, it makes you sound like a whiny bitch. Because every team has to deal with this. They've always had to deal with it in the world of college football. Dan Lanning in Oregon has never made this excuse, so please stop. If you're an Oregon fan,
I don't think anybody's bitching about
Oregon fan is.
Well, but it's not an excuse. It's just a thing. Both things can be true.
And a fan of there's going to be a certain type of fan for any team that if this happened to was going to have that.
And I don't know why we're always trying to address that. Let fans be fans. I'm just saying both things can be true. It's not an excuse, but it is a thing. It is a factor, and teams got to be better prepared for it. And then the conference championships are another thing.
Yeah.
It's like that's another thing that college football. It's like, what are we even doing with these games?
Yeah.
But then how do you determine a conference champion if you've got 15 teams in a league or 18 teams in a league
and
they don't play each other?
Yep.
So there's a lot of they need to figure out.
And it's
here.
the first year of it, and tweaks will be made, and it's just the end of the day. Right now, we are looking at no conference champions. None of the top 4 seeds are sitting here, but that easily could have been different because Arizona State certainly could have moved on, and then. What are we saying about that? It's just I just don't like taking 1 year of results because that 1 year of something happening doesn't mean that it happens every year. And
did you like Billie Jean King getting all fiery in the coin toss?
Yeah, she was a little hot and spicy,
she was
wasn't
hot.
she?
Yeah.
Well, they introduce her, and you're like, oh, that's Billie Jean King. It's cool.
She's
And
like,
then
yeah,
all of a
let's
sudden,
go.
she's fist pumping, going, "Let's go!"
Why was she was in the Rose Parade too? What was her?
Was she like a Grand Marshal?
She was the Grand Marshal. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a hell of a Grand Marshal.
I wasn't certain exactly why that she was there and was all fired up, but all right.
One of the ones that I went to before, Paula Dean was doing the coin
Please
toss.
forgive me.
Yeah.
Paula Dean.
She can't do that anymore. What is Paula Dean?
Is she dead?
up to? I think she's just been canceled.
Why? That was the racist thing?
Yeah. Paula Dean was a juggernaut for a while, and she's just gone.
Well, she's probably working on her resurgent documentary.
Well, she doesn't need it. She's probably worth $200 million, and she's old. And
Well,
fat and sassy.
Martha Stewart had it.
Yeah, she
Girl,
bounced back.
you something else.
Have you seen her documentary that came out?
I have not seen that yet.
Called Martha?
Yeah, it pops up on Netflix all the
Well,
time.
I tell you what, it's a good watch.
Yeah.
She is a
Grade
raging
A.
bitch. Prime bitch.
That's what that
She really
drop
is.
was in reference to, was her.
I mean, she is.
Yeah.
She has no feelings.
No.
She's a grade A bitch.
I thought Ellen's like that too. I think Ellen's like moving to England or something.
Why?
She was America's sweetheart.
Yeah,
for a
people
while.
hate her here because apparently she's one of those that like
Yeah, I guess she's a real-
severely mistreated her staffs or something like that.
Who else? Rosie O'Donnell turned out to be a big old bitch that everyone hated.
Well, but she always was. Like
No,
she was
Rosie-
outwardly. a
Rosie
bitch.
was America's sweetheart for a long time.
Dude, she was mean to everyone. That was
No.
her whole bit.
Dude, that
She is
Rosie
an
show,
aloof
she was like
bitch.
the new Oprah.
I just always thought she was kind of biting.
That
at all
whiny
times.
bitch.
She was just kind of that was her bit, was being a bitch.
Well, she's gone too now.
Because these Martha. bitches behind maintenance.
I think Martha's the one that survived it the best.
Resourceful little bitch.
Martha's out there with Snoop Dogg still mixing it up.
Well, if you watch the documentary, you will see why.
Yeah. Well,
Like it's been a really it started with social media. It's actually started with the roast. They had her on I think it might have been the Bieber roast.
I remember she did some of that. And we
They
were like,
put
why
her
is
on
Martha
there.
Stewart there.
Well, that's exactly what she said. She was like, her team had to convince her to go do it. But they said that was for the first time showed that she actually had a personality and a sense of humor. And then all of a sudden she took to social media and got a whole new audience.
Well, and it's worked. She's doing like Bic ads and she's selling all kinds of stuff. It's good to be Martha now.
What a power bitch.
She is a power bitch. I
Do
wouldn't
not mess with her.
No, she's a convicted felon. She's got some street cred.
Grade A prime bitch. All right, a significant scientific discovery in England. New home of Ellen, apparently. Next on The Fan.
I'm Leif, owner of Leif's Auto Collision Centers. A recent survey found 90% of auto collision repairs performed at insurance-recommended discount body shops were substandard. Why? Insurance companies require these preferred discount shops fix cars on the cheap with imitation parts and cutting corners. You have a choice: the insurance-preferred body shop or Leif's. Pre-loss condition, factory parts, pickup and delivery across the Northwest.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Ryan Buckley with this Sports Center update. First on the Fan on the College Gridiron today, the Sugar Bowl going down in New Orleans. Notre Dame upsetting Georgia 23-10 the final. The Irish move on to play Penn State in the semifinals at the Orange Bowl. The winner of that game going to take on the winner of the other semifinal between Ohio State and Texas in the College Football Championship game. Right now, over on ESPN, Duke and Ole Miss doing battle in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Ole Miss with a 17-0 lead early in this one. Duke trying to score before they get to the half. Pro Bowl rosters announced in the NFL today. Patrick Mahomes left off the AFC roster for the first time since becoming the starter in KC. Seattle cornerback Devin Witherspoon, the lone Seahawks representative, on the NFC roster. On the hardwood tonight, the Blazers are back in action visiting LeBron and the Lakers. Tip-off is at 7:30. The Lakers favored by 7.5. And in the college game, a top 25 matchup in Eugene tonight is number 9 Oregon hosts number 22 Illinois. That one tips right here on the Fan at 7. Pre-game coverage starting at 6:30. You can also see it on Fox Sports 1. The Ducks are favored by 4.5. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Ryan Buckley at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan. The following show may contain adult themes not suitable for children.
Shut the hell up.
Club 1080 with Isaac and Souk.
It does go well with a chicken.
I didn't know hanging out with you was making me smarter. Full disclosure, Morty, it's not. Temporary superintelligence is just a side effect of the mega seeds dissolving in your rectal cavity. Oh, man. Yeah, and once those seeds wear off, you're going to lose most of your motor skills, and you're also going to lose a significant amount of brain functionality for 72 hours, Morty. Starting right about now.
Club 1080 with Isaac and Souk is brought to you by Pub Beer, the official beer of Cheap Fun.
I'm cooking on your grill. You ever see a cheetah stretch?
They're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. It's over here!
You guys shut up.
Hey, will you shut up?
Hey, shut up.
Do you believe?
Playoffs?
Yeah.
Why don't you take your butt out of here?
I think it's really sexy.
Guys, move on.
Bro.
Girl, you something else.
It's not breaking news, dude.
Caitlin Clark is white.
I tried everything. We played 4 white guys and an Egyptian. I mean, we tried everything.
Maybe Oregon should have tried that.
Yeah. Do they have an Egyptian?
Yeah.
Boise State does. Their best defensive player is an Egyptian. That defensive lineman didn't help against Penn State. And they do have 4 white guys. That much I can assure you of.
I have big science news.
Can't wait.
It's actually paleontological news.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dealing with the dinosaurs?
Yep.
I have not seen this thing.
An extraordinary finding, they say, Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Researchers have uncovered a series of massive dinosaur tracks dating back to the Middle Jurassic period, approximately 166 million years ago.
I was hoping that we were going to get the, like, Jesus right into dinosaur tracks. Now that would be something. Like, dinosaurs were around like 3,000 years ago. Now we're talking.
Dubbed a dinosaur highway, the site features footprints from both herbivore dinosaurs, likely the Cetiosaurus?
Guarantee that's not how you say it, but all right.
And the fearsome carnivore, the Megalosaurus.
Ah, yes. Oh, yeah, I see right here. That's pretty cool.
The discovery was made at Dewar's Farm Quarry in Oxfordshire, England, and includes over 200 footprints spread across 5 extensive trackways, the longest of which stretch more than 150 meters. Now, this matters because most of what we know about dinosaurs comes from the fossil record, right?
Yeah.
But a skeleton is a record of the animal once it died. Footprints are quite different in that they are snapshots into the life of the animal.
So we're seeing that there was like herds, like migration patterns.
Well, I mean, it looks like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they were playing football. I don't know.
It's like that Bud Light commercial. They're always going for 2. Wouldn't it be something, because like we make all these, like, and they're all educated guesses. Wouldn't it be great if we found out like somehow that everything we know is completely like absolute horse ears? Like, we find out now, like, dinosaurs mostly had feathers and they didn't sound like we think. Like, all the stuff we thought we knew about dinosaurs growing up, none of that's true.
So when you walk on,
they cruise in formations.
So when you walk on this surface in Oxford, you are walking on the same ground that dinosaurs walked on 166 million years ago, so you can tell things about how the animal actually moved. The overlapping tracks of the herbivore and carnivore has sparked questions about potential interactions between the two.
I'm looking into the Megalosaurus right now. Looks like it was about 10 feet and weighed about 4,000 to 5,000 pounds. Looked like a small T-Rex.
The hero here is Gary Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Big Gare.
Love Big Gare.
He's a quarry worker. He first noticed unusual bumps on the floor of the quarry, prompting the involvement of experts from the University of Oxford and the University of Birmingham. And then over a week, over 100 scientists and volunteers uncovered the tracks. Pretty crazy.
I used to love, when you were a kid, were you big into dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Loved the dinosaurs.
Boys love dinosaurs.
Yeah. Do girls? I don't know. I just remember, like, I remember being a kid, like, on the playground, and everyone had, like, their favorite dinosaur. But back then, we only had, like, 5 dinosaurs.
Yeah, you basically had, I was going to say 4. You basically had T-Rex, Brontosaurus, Stegosaurus, Triceratops. That's it. Maybe pterodactyl, too.
The pterodactyl, right? You know, and now, like, I would say, like, the king of the dinosaurs now, like, isn't it the raptor? The velociraptor?
I mean, Jurassic Park really upped the stock of the raptor.
Yeah, which isn't even, like, a real thing.
Yeah, or the ones that were in the movie, they're much bigger than the way they really were in real life.
Yeah,
I think
they
they're
were
like more like the size of
like
Roadrunners or
turkeys,
something. Yeah.
You know. But yeah, the raptor is kind of, and now we got a team named after a raptor. I feel like the T-Rex used to be the end all to be all, and now the raptor is the, and now like Ford has their best truck Ford makes is the raptor. And I just feel like the raptor is really, it's on the come up lately. And maybe we need a new one.
These footprints are pretty crazy in that, you know, it's one thing about it is 166 million years. I can't even wrap my head around that.
No.
And yet they're still preserved.
Yeah, they're right there.
Like, look at how deep they are.
Yeah, and they're laying like plaster casts in them now. I know, it's crazy. I mean, I'm watching, I love like the ancient human stuff. I read a lot of books on that. There's a guy. He's got a. Have you ever watched the Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix?
No.
He's an author and
sounds boring.
It's really not. You should look at it. They're like 45 minutes long, and they're on Netflix. They're in their second series, and Graham Hancock is the guy, and he's like an investigator, and he's always like, I'm fascinated by like ancient civilizations, and that stuff goes back somewhere between like 10 to maybe 100,000 years ago, and even that blows my mind. Like they found there's some human footprints in like the New Mexico desert that can go back like 40, 50,000 years. And then you just realize what you just said. These are 160 million years ago.
Crazy.
I have a hard time processing 50,000 years,
right?
Let alone 160 million, and they're still there.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, ESPN's getting a lot of crap, guys. I don't know if you know this.
Over dinosaurs, or?
We'll tell you why next on The Fan.
The home of Dirt and Spray.
I'm Dirt.
What are your thoughts?
of cheap fun.
Double sun power!
Yeah, ESPN under fire again today, Jace.
What'd they do?
Well, of course, we've had some tragic events here recently.
Yes.
One in New Orleans. We got an email today from our big super head cheese boss that one of the victims in New Orleans was an Odyssey team member.
Yeah, where was a sales guy out in Jersey, and I guess was down there celebrating the holiday. I've been down there many a time, and I will admit, if you've ever been down on Bourbon Street on a weekend or at an event like that, you do think about it because you're packed down there. And they have barriers. I mean, you can't, it's not easy.
You can't drive on those streets, can you?
Oh, God, no. They shut down the whole quarter.
Yeah. It's just people stumbling around.
It's people stumbling around. And so, like, you're just in the middle of the street, and it's wall to wall on any sort of weekend or any sort of event. And they have barriers. The problem is, and you can see the video, the guy just went up on the sidewalk and, started taking everybody out.
Well, ESPN has been ripped for so the game yesterday, of course, postponed to today. They played it earlier.
Yeah.
And they did not show the national anthem on ESPN.
Oh.
Or the moment of silence.
Oh. So why? Okay.
And the internet doesn't like that.
Oh.
Because it was a terror attack.
Yeah, it was.
So we have to have
acknowledgement.
Patriotism.
Do they normally? They don't normally show those things, though, right?
I don't think so. But I think in this instance, they wanted them to.
Okay.
It was a special sitch.
And the industry standard, like in broadcasting, both TV and radio, is if you happen to be on air when the anthem is happening, you have to drop whatever you're doing and just acknowledge the anthem.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, you try to schedule commercial breaks around it so that you can get the most out of your pregame.
Okay.
Well, they're getting a lot of heat.
Well,
Folks online.
Can we?
And those are your favorite people.
They are.
They get you a lot.
Can we just all grow up?
They drag you into the mud.
America, yeah! Yeah, I promise you, no one who is actually a victim of any of those down there or their families is tuning into that game and being like, how dare they? Just grow up.
The other thing that was, well, there's nothing funny about any of it.
No, it's just awful.
But did you see that they thought that the guy acted alone?
Yeah, I just saw that today because they originally said that they thought he had not acted alone.
Well, they thought he had 3 people with him because he had planted bombs in these coolers.
Yeah.
And so they have surveillance video of him and 3 other people looking in the coolers. But what they've learned, it turns out they were just partying looking for booze.
Boy, wouldn't that be something? Like, you're just down there and you're like, hey, there's a random cooler. You open it up and you're like, whoops. Sorry about that. But no one reported anything, right? They just...
No, they just later saw that on surveillance.
Yeah, saw that it wasn't booze, and then that was it. And he never ended up detonating any of them. I guess he didn't get an opportunity to. Like, and when you see the video, the moment he turns on that street, I mean, there are cops right there. I mean, they engaged him immediately. I mean, anytime down there on Bourbon Street, let alone on New Year's, there's cops everywhere. And, it's just... this is just another example of... It's impossible to stop everybody. Like, you do your very best, but at the end of the day, it's like we want to live in a world where nothing bad can happen, and that's just not realistic. I don't know how you stop one guy who gets radicalized online and then one day just decides to take a car and, I mean, this thing was over within 30 seconds, but, 30 seconds is enough to cause awful chaos. And it's just heartbreaking to think that, you're just down there having a good time and, you don't even have a chance. I was sick to my stomach watching that because that's one of my absolute favorite cities. I've been down there so many times, and it just kind of gives you that just awful feeling of that could have been anybody.
What's wild too is he earned a ton of medals in the Army.
Yeah,
this guy.
Yeah. Well, and it turns out that the guy that blew up the bomb in front of Trump Tower, he shot himself and then blew it up. That guy was an active Green Beret.
Yep.
Like this other guy was a retired Army guy. The Trump bomber, the front of Trump Tower, that dude's an active Green Beret.
Yeah, this dude in New Orleans, he served from March 2007 to January 2015 as a human resource specialist and information technology specialist.
Yeah.
He was a decorated service member, even awarded an anti-terror medal.
Yeah. And like you see, like he was like in real estate. It's weird to see him like not that long ago. He's posting videos online about selling your home. It's
Wild.
just it's a wild thing, man. Wild thing. Just goes to show you, like any place, any time. But I also refuse to live my life. I've seen and heard people that are doing that. This makes me not want to go anywhere, and you can't. I don't know. It's just me. I can't live my life thinking anytime I'm out in public that something bad's going to happen. That's not going to stop me from going out in public. It's not going to stop me from going to New Orleans. It's not going to stop me from going to great events. Just refuse to let that happen.
It's just wild. They were both U.S. military guys.
And if you've seen, they're
active and ex.
They served in the same same base.
They knew each other, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they knew each other. They were serving at the same time, and so they're looking for a connection, because it seems pretty weird that two guys that were at the same base would do this the same day. So the last I read is that they're looking for some sort of connection between the two.
Well, now, and I had read that they both served at the same base, but it may not have overlapped. So they may not have even known each other.
So we don't,
Boy, that's random.
Yeah. You just never
coincidence.
Know. Yeah. We're just kind of waiting to see the details, because obviously when it first came out, there were, quote, news organizations running out saying that it was an illegal immigrant, and that it was the open border thing, and you just we have to do it where we immediately make rash judgments and just try to be a little more, wait and see what happens and see what information comes out.
Hey, the return of the cannibal, Armie Hammer, is back.
Oh, is he uncanceled?
Yeah, he's making a comeback.
I saw that he was giving an interview somewhere.
Yep.
The other day, they were like, he reflects on the scandal that almost cost him his career.
Yeah, he said that he is making a quiet career comeback.
Okay.
And that the general perception of him in Hollywood is that he got screwed.
Really?
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of that. Was it on HBO or Hulu? I didn't get it through the whole thing because I stopped caring.
I didn't either.
But I watched the first episode
about
and a
his
half.
family.
Yeah.
They overhyped that.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, basically the whole point of that is that they think he's a creep.
Yeah.
And into some weird ass.
Yeah, he probably is.
And all the men that came before him and his family were the same way. Yeah. That's really the only revelation. And they even say that in the promo.
Yeah. They're rich and
yeah.
They're rich, entitled people that
into some stuff. But Armie, he never got, there was never any.
I don't think there's any convictions or anything like that.
Well, there were no they were all just accusations. I don't even think they were charges.
Well, didn't that happen too with he never got charged with anything. All he was acquitted and all that was Trevor Bauer. He was just into some weird stuff.
Yeah.
He was into some rough stuff, and he got booted from the major leagues and has never been back. Never recovered from it.
I just wonder, if this is always a weird one because you just don't know if there's something to it. Look, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt because there were no charges.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was looked into. He was accused, but he was accused by a lot of different women of some really effed up stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, no criminal charges because he couldn't prove it. But are you killing people?
Yeah. It's like
and eating them.
At the very least, you're into some weird things.
He was a cannibal.
I just like to do a little nibble.
Or
it's like,
accused of being a cannibal.
Who's that? Musburger, right? Didn't Musburger like some love bites too?
Marv Albert.
Oh, Marv Albert. Yeah, Marv.
He was a biter.
I just think
that's a little different.
I think you get to a certain point when you come from that well. Like I just think you've got to up the weird factor, and it gets into some Squid Game uncomfortable type stuff.
I don't know. I think the Hammers are crazy, but they got away with it.
Yeah, but he's coming back, huh?
That's what he's saying, quietly.
I didn't miss you, buddy. What the hell do you ever do?
I don't even. Yeah.
He's in that crappy Lone Ranger.
I only know him because of this story.
Exactly. That's what I know him for. He's into some weird sex.
Hey, why is that music playing? Because we are done.
We got Ducks, not football. Hey, football's over. We're not a football school anymore. It's a basketball school.
Yeah, Oregon is playing Illinois. It's a big game.
Yeah.
Big little game.
9 versus what? 20, 21, something?
9 versus 22. And you're going to hear it right here on The Fan. We're back tomorrow, 3 to 7 on The Fan. Good night.